All right.
I'm so excited. Okay, welcome to the book club for bitches who don't read. And we are the bitches who don't read.
Episode 1.
So, my name is Haley, and
My name is Alex.
we don't read. We kind of wanted to start this podcast because we wanted to read more.
Have a reason to read.
Right, exactly. So we're both out of college now. Alex just graduated. Yes.
I did.
So, we just wanted to be able to read, and
I don't know why I'm so nervous.
I am too. My hands are shaking.
Oh,
I just
gosh.
take off my glasses because I'm, shaking. Okay.
Yeah. So, Haley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I like long walks on the beach. I like my dog. I graduated from art school last year, 2017, and now I work in town, not unemployed, thank God, making them bills.
Yeah.
Earning that money. Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I just graduated 2018, about 2 days ago. I graduated with a film and video production degree.
Relevant.
So this is very near and dear to my heart. This movie is, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to analyze the book and compare it to the movie because the movie's been in my life for years and years. It's one of my favorites, I would say. But yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think you might have introduced me to the movie. Because Alex and I met, almost 3 years ago? Literally, almost 3 years ago. We're roommates.
Yeah.
And when I first met Alex, I remember her showing me her Halloween costume of Patrick Bateman. You went as Patrick Bateman, what?
It was, oh gosh, it must have been 3 years ago then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the pinstripe business top.
Cute.
I matched it with some cute knee-high socks and a skirt because I wanted to be cute. I splattered red paint all over a clear poncho, and I carried an axe around with me.
And no one got it. Because no one is cultured.
It's fine.
Well, I wouldn't have got it either, and then Alex was like, oh yeah, American Psycho. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because I remember telling people about it at work.
Yeah. All right.
Wow. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Aw. Okay.
So let's explain what we're going to do on the podcast.
Yeah.
So our goal right now, it's subject to change because this is our first episode, but is just reading books that have movie counterparts and
good word.
Comparing and contrasting. The books are clearly going to be better than the movies, but that's about it. I think we're going to split this up into 2 parts.
Yeah, we're going to try it. We're going to see how it goes.
That's pretty much all I have so far.
I think it's going to be book-centric. For sure, because we wanted to do the whole, book club for people maybe who don't have time to read, or like we were saying, for people who might have seen the movie and,
always been curious.
Right, or, have started the book and were like, or they read it in high school and, they want to read it again with new, fresh eyes, or if you just want to listen to us ramble for however long this is going to be.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So our goal is for 1 book a month. Obviously, we're starting with American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, and we're going to see how this goes. So we're going to start off by just giving, a quick summary of American Psycho, the actual book itself, and then Alex is going to give us some background information on Bret Easton Ellis and the book itself, and then I'm going to give some quick information about the director, Mary Harron, and the movie.
Yeah.
So the summary is, Patrick Bateman is handsome, well-educated, intelligent. He works by day on Wall Street, earning a fortune to complement the one he was born with. His nights he spends in ways we cannot begin to fathom. He is 26 years old and living his own American dream. American Psycho is set in a world, what do you call those? Parentheses. Manhattan in an era.
In a world.
Parentheses. The 80s. recognizably our own. The wealthy elite grows infinitely wealthier. The poor and disturbed are turned out onto the streets by tens of thousands, and anything, including the very worst, seems possible. Even so, Bateman, who expresses his true self by torture and murder, prefigures an apocalyptic horror that no society could bear to confront. And he remains, in the end, at large. This is not an exit.
She winked.
I did wink.
I know, I keep making gestures like we're being, like you're going to see us, our body language and stuff. I love how it said that, what did it say?
Yeah.
Something completely, including the very worst seems possible. I just feel like that's very, like, understated.
Yeah.
Considering the content.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's worse than the very worst.
This book was intense. Okay, so go ahead and give us some information about Bret Easton Ellis and in the book itself.
All right, let me find...
Get my notes straight.
Let me find my notes. So Bret Easton Ellis, he's an American author, screenwriter, and short story writer. I found it interesting. He did kind of have a hand in writing the movie, sort of. He, like, wrote early editions. I'm sure you'll talk about that, but...
No, go for it.
But he did, like, some other novels that he published eventually got made into screenplays that he had a hand in writing, which was pretty cool, because writing a script, I feel like, is a lot like writing a novel, but at the same time, it's so different. Anyway, he was born March 7th, 1964, which makes him... birthday. Yeah, 54 years old, which is younger than I thought he would be. That made him 26 when he published American Psycho in 1991. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow. Yeah. He published that at 26?
26.
Wow.
So, backtracking a little bit, he's a self-proclaimed I'm going to butcher all these words.
No.
This is such an easy word to say. Satirist?
I think it's satirist. That makes sense. Like satire.
He's self-proclaimed satirist.
Yeah,
whose trademark technique is the expression of extreme acts and opinions in an effectless style, which I think that's such an interesting way to put it. Mm-hmm. Ellis employs a technique of linking novels with common recurring characters. I was reading through some of his, like, other works, and, like, the brother in this American Psycho, Sean, is, like, one of the characters in his very first novel, Rules of Attraction.
Nice.
Patrick Bateman makes a brief appearance in another novel called Glamorama.
Oh!
He also, it's a couple different people in American Psycho, like Timothy Price and a couple other guys that, like, are business associates, are mentioned in different novels, but they never make an appearance.
Wow.
Which is super interesting because, like, it's, like, all a one connected world. Ellis made his debut at 21 years old with... Oh, I'm sorry. Rules of Attraction was not his first book. Scratch that. It was Less Than Zero. It's literally right here on my page. But he was 21 years old. He was still in college, and that shot him to fame, even, like, in college. That was his first one that put him on a map. Published by Simon and Schuster. That novel was a little bit controversial. I think it had a lot to do with, like, sexual, like, young people in Los Angeles, and I guess that was a little taboo for the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting. He published that when he was still in college, which is so amazing.
And American Psycho at 26. Like, I would have guessed he was, like, in his, like, late 30s.
Right?
Maybe.
Yeah, so American Psycho was his third novel. And that was his most successful, obviously. One of his most controversial. On its release, the literary establishment widely condemned the novel as overly violent and misogynistic, to say the least. Though many petitions to ban the book saw Ellis dropped from Simon & Schuster, his publishing company, he was later picked up, and it was published by Vintage, another publishing company. But organizations like National Organization for Women protested it due to its misogyny and violence. It later obviously became a cult hit, and after its movie adaptation, it obviously took off, and it's become what they regard as Ellis's magnum opus. I'm tripping over my words so bad.
No, it's okay.
And now it's favorably looked upon by critics and everything, which I think is so...
I'm not peeing.
Haley's filling up wine. Wine is not gonna help me, like, my speech at this point. Yeah, so I just thought it was really, really interesting. Ellis states that American Psycho came out of a place of severe alienation and loneliness and self-loathing. He says, I was pursuing a life, you could call it the gentleman's quarterly way of living, that I knew was bullshit, and yet I couldn't seem to help it.
Oh. I feel like all I'm saying is, wow.
Well, I feel like I'm just info overload right now.
No. We need this.
So that takes me into the inspiration behind Patrick Bateman. So Ellis was born in Los Angeles and raised in Sherman Oaks in the San Fernando Valley. His father was a property developer and his mother was a homemaker. They divorced in 1982. Later, Ellis stated that during the initial release of his third novel, American Psycho, that his father was abusive and he had become the basis for the work for Patrick Bateman. Which was really interesting because I saw that pop up a lot. But then I found in a 2010 interview he claims to have lied about that, which this is, 2 decades later? Because it came out in 91, 2010. He says that Patrick Bateman was about, this is a quote from Bret Easton Ellis, Patrick Bateman was about me. I didn't want to finally own up to the responsibility of being Patrick Bateman, so I laid it on my father. I laid it on Wall Street. In reality, the book had been about me at the time, and I wrote about all my rage and feelings, which is extremely alarming, I feel like, because, I don't know, just how disturbing it got. Where did that come from inside of him? You know? I mean, how does anybody think of, I don't know. So I just thought, I mean, you do have to write what you know, but I, like, hope to God that he doesn't know killing women and
we'll never
torturing,
know. Or we will. He'll get caught like the Golden State Killer like 45 years later.
Yeah. Oh, something else that was interesting. Now these are just like tidbits about his life. That was pretty much like what I wanted to.
Yeah.
I thought that was super interesting. It was about him. It was about his abusive father, which.
So his father really was abusive. Yeah. He just kind of.
And it didn't say if it was like. I'm sure it was more physical. But it didn't say the mental, because I feel like Patrick Bateman's very mentally abusive too. He's very like manipulative.
Yeah, he is.
So Ellis was educated at the Buckley School in California and then attended Bennington College in Vermont, where he first studied music and then gradually gravitated to writing. And I thought that's super interesting because there's like at least 3 chapters in American Psycho where it's literally just pages and pages about different artists, like specifically, and just all their different bodies of work.
Speak it.
And I'm sure, that obviously has like a place in his heart because he studied music for so long.
Honey, you did your homework.
Yeah. And then finally, I thought this was super interesting too. I already kind of told you this. When asked in an interview in 2002 whether he was gay, Ellis explains that he does not identify as gay or straight. He's comfortable being thought of as a homosexual, bisexual, or heterosexual, and enjoys playing with his persona, identifying variously as gay, straight, and bisexual to different people over the years. He goes on to state, if people knew that I was straight, they'd read my books in a different way. If they knew I was gay, American Psycho would be read as a different book. He then added that any other interviewer out there will get a different answer, and it just depends on the mood he's in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should add that Alex and I we've been trying our damnedest. We read this, we finished this book about, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And we have been trying, because we live together and we, hang out almost all the time, so we have to, we had to keep stopping ourselves and
catching ourselves when we wanted to say something.
Feels like taking a big shit. I'm so excited to tell you all of this. Wow,
yeah, so that's
really cool.
basically, that's probably more knowledge than is necessary for this situation. In the novel, I guess it's not so much like men with men, but all the women that he has have sex with each other. Mm-hmm. And to read it, if I don't know. And he is it puts a different view of where he was coming from at the time.
And but Patrick Bateman, he's so violently homophobic that it's kind of.
And all of his friends are too. Yeah.
Huh, and I wonder if that had to do anything with, maybe the friends he was surrounded, but I'm just speculating at this point, but, the friends he was surrounded by, maybe they, and especially you gotta think about the time, too, maybe they were super homophobic, and maybe he's feeling, he has, quite come out. Like I said, it's all speculation. I have no clue. But he hadn't come out yet.
Lewis, that brings up a whole nother story about, in the movie, it goes a lot more in depth in the book with Lewis, what's his last name?
Crothers.
Who has a crush on Patrick Bateman, and when Patrick Bateman goes to choke him in the bathroom just one day when he's having like a mental break, he thinks that he's coming on to him, and in the book it goes so much further with Lewis like pursuing him and him being so violently against it.
Yeah.
I mean,
to the point where it like makes him physically ill, and he just can't control himself, and like fuck, I forgot what I was about to say. I probably should chill out on the wine. But I was going to say something about Lewis. Oh, yeah, because he's engaged to be married to a woman, and in that, like, whole world, you know, where everyone is so violently homophobic, he's engaged to a woman, and they're about to get married. Like, they're going to get married soon.
Yeah.
And he's pursuing Patrick.
And one of my favorite, not one of my favorite quotes, but an interesting quote in the movie and in the book, it takes place in different places. In the movie, he's, like, in the car with Evelyn, his fiancée, and in the book, I think he's talking to Courtney, Lewis's fiance/future wife, and they're asking him, like, you're so rich, like, you don't need to work. Why are you doing all this? And he's like, I just want to fit in. And he's, like, such a cookie-cutter, like, businessman of the times that that just, like, seems like a taboo idea to...
TT, I love that.
Yeah.
You've done so good.
All right, so that's pretty much all I have to say. Tell us about the director.
All right. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. Harron?
Yeah.
Harron? All right. So the film was released in April 15th, 2000. So just about almost 10 years after the book was released. Mary Harron, which obviously is a woman, which I thought we both think is interesting that she directed it. She's a director and a writer. She was born January 12th, 1953 in Ontario, and I put in parentheses, Capricorn, Avi.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So other films that she's directed are Moth Diaries, Alias Grace, The Following, Constantine, which is that show. I think that got canceled. I don't know. But I thought it was good. It's kind of cheesy. 6 Feet Under and The L Word. I did not know she directed that.
Yeah.
Or maybe she directed some episodes. I'm not sure. She's actually directing a movie right now, a Charles Manson movie called Charlie Say.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like I said, the film was released in April 2000. It took 8 years to make it to the screen.
Yeah.
So originally Stuart Gordon was supposed to direct it with Johnny Depp being the lead.
Could you imagine? I can't.
Yeah, side note, that would have been amazing. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But Ellis, the writer, didn't agree, and the producer Ed Pressman just didn't listen to him. He was like, well, this is just how it's going to be. What do you say producers do again? They're kind of the one that funds the whole thing?
And so I'm sure there's different, like, levels to it. But yeah, producers are the ones that kind of, get the ball rolling, get the money flowing. They kind of...
Ooh, that was like a rhyme.
Yeah.
Get the ball rolling. Yeah. Get the money flowing.
Exactly. And so because of that, I feel like they kind of have a say in it, because if they don't agree with who you cast or who you want to direct, they can be like, all right, well, I'm not going to fund this.
I'm pulling out, yeah. Okay, all right. See, that's why we got you here. And for other reasons. So, this guy named David Cronenberg was attached to direct as well, like do like, I guess, like an assistant director, maybe like a co-director. I'm not sure how that works. But he didn't want to shoot in any nightclubs or restaurants, which is like one of the...
That's like pretty much the setting.
Yeah, it's like an anchor to the entire book. Like the whole point of it is it being, you know, anywhere but home kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, you're totally right.
Thank you, baby. So Ellis, they brought him on to write part of the script, like Alex said. So he was actually going to include some additional scenes. Now, I'm taking this from an article. We can link it, I'm sure. But, so it's kind of almost verbatim. So, you know, if you have read this article before, it's kind of repeating. But he was going to include some additional scenes in the film because he was, quote, bored with the book, unquote. He was going to end the film with a musical number on top of the World Trade Center.
That's disgusting.
I thought so too at first. I'll give you my thoughts later when we have like questions, because I think we have a question pertaining to
I think
music.
that's disrespectful.
It is. When I heard musical number, I thought like a musical, like Patrick Bateman was gonna get on top of there with like an axe and be like Les Mis. So I don't quite agree with it, but I
think I know what you're gonna say, and we can
okay, all right. So then so in 1997, Harron finally became the director. Wrote the new script when I'm gonna fuck her name up. She wrote a new script with Genevieve.
Oh, yeah, but she plays I'm
going to call her Genevieve. That's not what it is at all. But she actually plays Elizabeth in the film. So she wrote the new script with Elizabeth from the film, which is so freaking cool.
And I love that she put herself in it as one of the people that gets brutally murdered.
Right, exactly. And so, when Harron called on bail for the role, people started calling him, telling him it was career suicide, this is not going to work, like, blah, 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 you're going to, like, screw your career up, and his career was just starting, and he loved it. He was like, hell yeah, let's friggin' do it then.
I'm only agreeing with you because that's what I found on the IMDb, trivia,
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, yeah.
Do it. But the studio wanted a bigger name, because obviously Christian Bale wasn't really established at that time. I guess that can go into, she didn't quite budget Bale in yet, so the studio actually called on DiCaprio, and Lionsgate went ahead and announced him playing the role without even notifying Harron or Bale.
That is so shitty.
I know. And then so Harron thought Leonardo DiCaprio, who was fresh off of the Titanic, fresh off the boat.
No, can we say that? Could we get in trouble for that? It's copyright? No, we're talking about movies anyway.
Fresh off the like, change it.
No, okay, continue.
Fresh off the floating sea car. The floating sea... You know what I mean, okay?
Fresh off the board that Rose didn't let him on.
That's right. Oh my god! Yeah! Oh my god, I didn't mean to slap you like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Leonardo DiCaprio had just come off of Titanic at that time, and she said that he was too boyish, and she didn't want
young.
He was at that time. I think he was, obviously, in his, like, what, mid-20s? I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just speculating. I don't know anything. But she didn't want his fan club following this American Psycho because it was made up of a bunch of, like, teenage girls. So she was like, no. And she said he was not Wall Street material, which I found ironic.
Oh my god.
Because later on he plays Wolf on Wall Street.
He's literally the Wolf of Wall Street.
Exactly. So I thought to myself, yeah, that makes a point. But like I said, we can talk about that later. I keep saying, well, let's talk about that later. Let's talk about it later. But now,
I know.
I totally get her saying, like, DiCaprio right now.
He was very, like, clean cut, boyish.
And I don't think he's been an awesome actor since he started, but I don't think he was quite nearly as developed. Obviously, you grow with your role. Alex is an actor too, by the way. I should note that. I don't think you said that.
I'm an attempted actress.
She tears herself down, but we all build her up. Isn't that right? Yes. So, they're like, okay, DiCaprio's gonna play it. They start, starting the scene with DiCaprio. But Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale, a.k.a., he calls Mary, like she would say, like he'd call when I was at dinner with my kids and be like, all right, so what about this scene? What about this scene? Wow. And she'd be like, we're not gonna, like, this is not gonna happen, And he says, okay, like, see you then, like, and he kept preparing for the role. So he had to get in that, like, serious physical shape for the role, thank God. And so he worked with a trainer 6 days a week for 3 hours a day, which I haven't been to the gym in a month. Over a month. I keep saying a month, but 3
hours a day. Oh my god.
3 hours a day for 6 days a week in order to get. And then it also kind of touched on, like, his extreme weight loss for what was it called? The Insomniac that he plays. What's that one movie he plays in? The Machinist.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, but I just pretend like I did. And then he also gained a bunch of friggin' weight for
American
Batman.
Hustle. Oh. In American Hustle.
Yeah. Anyway, so he kept preparing for the film. Even though DiCaprio was signed on to play, he's still going to the gym, 6 days a week. Like, this is my role.
That's very Patrick Bateman of him, I feel like. Which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, but so, like, respectable. So anyway, just back on track. Gloria... No, you go.
I was just going to say, if that happened to me and other people were cast and it was, like, happening, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, sorry. But he passed on offers for roles while he was waiting. So he had, like, these offers, like, hey, come do this movie. And he's like, no, I'm waiting. Like,
wow.
I am Patrick Bateman
now.
That
takes a lot of confidence.
And he took inspiration from Tom Cruise. He was watching him late night.
That.
He said that he was extremely friendly with dead eyes. Yeah. Is what he said, which is so true. And I've always tried to put, like, a phrase. Like, if I had to think about Tom Cruise, what would I think? Mm-hmm. Extremely creepily friendly smile with dead eyes. It's so...
Yeah, there's nothing behind it.
So that was his inspiration.
And it's interesting because Tom Cruise makes an appearance in the novel. He lives in his building, and they have a conversation about a cocktail.
Exactly.
And he calls it bartender.
That's right.
That was such an awkward scene in the book, I felt like. I could feel the friendliness with the deadness in the eyes in that scene.
He does that well. And then just the last point is Gloria Steinem, which, she's like a pretty famous feminist. She's a super vocal, like you said, there was, protests. So she was super, opposed to the film and the book. But then 5 months after the film, not that this is even relevant, but 5 months after the film, she married Christian Bale's father.
Wow.
Not that, by association.
But that's just really interesting that
it was that
she'd
time.
be so against it and then end up being related to it in a way.
All right, so that's all I have to say about that. Okay.
All right, this is the moment we've been waiting for.
Finally can talk about it. Thank God. Seriously, it's been...
weeks.
I mean, feels like decades. Weeks.
So I think we're just gonna discuss our thoughts on different parts of the book. So I don't think we're gonna go in order. This is a book club. We're not literary scholars by any means. No. We don't we're not going to be technically correct about a lot of this. So if that's what you're looking for,
press skip.
Go to the next podcast.
But still listen to this one.
Yeah. But yeah, this is pretty much just us rambling about our thoughts on the book and the movie, and
we're just a bunch of bitches
who don't typically read, but we're trying to get better. That's going to be our new name.
We don't typically read, but we're trying our hardest, okay?
We have busy schedules. I think now we should go ahead and say that, I mean, I guess at this point you've already read the book or you've seen the movie, but it's extremely graphic. It's extremely violent. There's extreme sexual situations. Mm-hmm. There's lots of different, triggers, I guess. Mm-hmm. So just be wary of that. We're not going to go into super graphic detail, but...
Why not?
I mean, we can, but I'm just saying, if you do want to read the book or whatever, just know that it is one of the most disturbing things I've ever visualized in my head.
Yeah, Alex finished the book before I did, and I remember her saying, oh, it's disgusting, this was so hard to get through, blah, 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 or this passage was just absolutely terrifying. Yeah. And I remember thinking, okay, because that's literally my favorite thing ever in the world is true crime. So I feel like I'm always talking about serial killers and reading and listening to podcasts about true crime. So I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Fuck no. Yeah. It was disturbing.
I remember walking past your door when you got through the scene. Oh, what scene was it? Was it the one with the rat? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should we talk about that?
Yeah, we can. I think we could go into that. I mean,
and also, there's clearly going to be spoilers. We're not going to leave out anything. So
right. Yeah. So
there's that.
It's fine. But yeah, I mean, we can go into it. I think that I actually have a couple things written down about that.
Okay, good.
Is that? Oh, and at the very end, we're also going to talk about our conflicting views about the ending of the book/movie. Okay, so Patrick Bateman, the character, he watches a lot of, violent porn in his spare time, which is fine. If that's what you're into, do you, boo-boo. Yeah. As long as nobody's getting physically hurt, do you. Okay, side note, we also have a haunted house, so if you hear things going, that's a whole different... Yeah, this is a whole different conversation for a whole different day, but yeah, we have a haunted house, so things just make noises sometimes.
Oh, it sounds like our neighbor taking out the trash.
Oh my god. Fuck this. All right,
we've had so many things happen, though, that any little noise that we make, we could be walking into a room where the other one is and just scare the shit out of each other.
Yeah, my adrenaline, my baseline for adrenaline is fucking just, I'm one of those
always
Red
on
Bull
edge.
fucking...
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just... Okay. All right. Side note, though. But so Patrick Bateman, aside from watching, violent porn and all this stuff, which, like I said, is cool. I don't want to talk down about.
Yeah, if that's your thing.
Right. As long as it's consensual. He also goes out and, I guess the word is elicits prostitutes.
Yeah.
He picks up prostitutes in his limo. He's usually dressed to the nines, or he'll call in, like, a literal call girl.
An escort, yeah.
An escort, and he'll, demand that she be blonde and she be a hard body, which they use
a hard body
the time in that.
Define a hard body.
I would say a hard body is Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
I was a hard body 6 years ago. Now I'm just a soft body. Oh my God, help me, please.
Hard bodies are what they use to describe the women in this book. Literally, just about every woman. If she's not a hard body, she's like an
disgusting,
ugly whore
dyke,
or something.
Blah blah blah. Like, here we go.
Yeah, and it's really misogynistic. Like, that's that's just the beginning of it all.
Yeah. So he brings these prostitutes over, and obviously they're prostitutes, so he feels like he has physical control over them, which he kind of does, unfortunately, because he's paying them to be there, and
he's paying them a lot.
Right, a lot of money to be there. Exactly. I mean, I think in the movie, at one point he gives Christy, which is his recurring prostitute that we'll talk about, but he gives Christy well over $1,000. I think it was like $1,800 to get back into his limo after
the first
really hurts
night.
her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's get into that. So, the first time he brings a prostitute over in the book, I think it is Christy, right?
It is Christy.
So, Christy her name isn't actually Christy. He's saying that, I'm going to call you Christy.
You have to respond to it.
You have to respond to Christy. He picks her up in the meatpacking district.
And this takes place in New York. Did we talk about that?
This takes place in New York City.
Oh, yeah, you said Manhattan. Sorry.
No. I mean, it takes place in New York City. So, that is a good point to make, because everyone's kind of anonymous there anyway. So, and especially, prostitutes, he tends to pick on prostitutes and homeless people because they are so vulnerable, anonymous, they're kind of,
you can't
he
track
thinks
them.
They're below him, so obviously they're an easy target for him. So he picks up Christy in the meatpacking district, and in the book, it has that Christy's standing there, and behind her on the brick wall, it says meat in really large letters, right? Like capital letters. And in the film, which I wish she would have included, what I wish she would have her sitting in front of like a old spray painted wall that said meat. Because not only is meat that has kind of like a sexual condensation. Good night.
Condensation. I was over here like, yeah. No.
Condensation. A sexual connotation. But then it also has to do with his thirst for human blood, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he brings Christy over the first time, and he has another prostitute come.
The blonde that's not blonde.
Right, the blonde that's not blonde, and her name is Sabrina.
That's really good. It's been like 3 weeks since I've read this.
I only know because I've typed her name out of my head. But what I really enjoyed about the film was, I mean, obviously you have the book, you can visualize, but there's only so much you can visualize until it's right in front of you, right? So the film, I loved that Christy was wearing white. Sabrina was wearing black lingerie. Patrick Bateman is wearing a black and white suit. And the whole apartment's black and white. Like, I just love that whole aesthetic. It's very late 80s, kind of like early 90s. Like, everything's black and white.
That's
like,
so
my dad had a completely black and white apartment. So it's just like that era. But it was really cool that they were like matching and all this stuff. So he has Christy while he's waiting for Sabrina. He asks her to clean her vagina and like has her bend over so he can see it, and it gets really crazy. And so
I feel like you said again, that's just like him kind of exerting like his power over her. He's like, I can make you do whatever.
And he's also reminding her that she's a prostitute. Like, you're dirty, clean your vagina. Like, before I get anywhere near you, kind of thing. But then, and he keeps, like, pushing alcohol on her. Like, that's a very fine Chardonnay you're not drinking. Like, please drink it. When, he's probably slipping drugs into it.
And I would like to take this moment not to derail this whole conversation.
No, derail.
Because I've seen the movie 1,000,001 times before I read the book. And I'm almost kind of glad I did. But I thought it was so interesting because almost every piece of dialogue in the movie is verbatim what is written in the novel.
Absolutely. And I think that shows respect.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting to read the book because I can hear Christian Bale saying it, and the way that it's described in the book, the way his speech is and the way the people are talking to him, and he's talking to people, and it's so amazing to me that Christian Bale was able to bring that onto the screen. Like, I feel like they do each other justice so much.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think you said this was, like, kind of his breakout film. And
yeah, so this was the first, before this movie, I didn't look at all the movies he had been in previously, but this was his first lead role, and this was the first movie where it made people see him as a lead character. Because before that, I guess he just wasn't as established.
Right.
But taking on this role, people could see him as the lead man in a movie. And if it hadn't been for this movie, I don't know. I'm sure he would have been successful, but I don't know if it would have been,
Yeah, and he's so versatile in his roles, too. I mean, we just talked about all his, like, extreme weight loss just to, like, pick up a role or weight gain. And I should mention, too, that I feel like we're derailing a lot, but...
we're going back to the prostitute, I know.
But I should mention, though, is, like, when they gave her, Mary, the final budget for the film was only $10 million. Wow. And the only exception by her casting Christian Bale was that she had to use supporting actors that were already recognized, which was everyone else that was supporting actors.
It was specifically, though, because I read that, I wrote it.
We're, like, sifting through our notes.
Because I remember we had talked about not talking about it at the time, but we need to talk about Evelyn and how Reese Witherspoon played Evelyn.
Right.
But going off of that, so Mary Harron kind of had to fight for Christian Bale because of the whole thing with Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff. But in order to have him, she had to have at least two other bigger names, and that was Willem Dafoe, who plays Detective Donald Kimball, and Reese Witherspoon, who played Evelyn. Right. And I guess at the time, I don't know what she had done. She may have done, like, that election movie or something. So she was pretty well established. At one point, Cameron Diaz was tied to the movie as Evelyn.
I'm sorry, but no.
I know, Cameron now I can't see it at all.
Do you boo-boo? Yeah, she wouldn't have. I think Reese Witherspoon was... Okay, all right. Prostitute time.
Back to the apartment, the black and white apartment.
Right, so the black and white apartment. So we have two prostitutes come over, and this is the first time he brings prostitutes over, right? In the book.
In the book, yeah.
And so he mentions in the book later on that his first rape was at 14 years old. Is that he raped his maid. Like we said in the summary, he was raised with money. He was raised with entitlement. You know, he had help, quote unquote, growing up. So he raped his maid at 14 years old, which is just disgusting.
And I thought that was so interesting how far back you see these behaviors go in the book, because it really doesn't hit on it that much in the movie.
Exactly. And even in the book it doesn't. It kind of, like, because I remember reading the book.
It's so vague.
Right. And I remember reading the book saying, like, I wonder when his first murder was. I wonder when his first rape was. Like, and then it finally answered it toward the end. And he talks about murdering and raping. He went to Harvard for undergrad or graduate school. He went to Harvard. And so he talks about raping and murdering at Harvard. At one point in the book, he actually runs into a girl that he raped at Harvard. Yeah. And she pretends like everything's fine.
It was
like
at one of the horse. It was at, what is it, like the horse races or something?
Oh, the Derby.
Yeah.
He met her there originally with that other girl, and then they ran into each other at the nightclub with the friend.
Okay, I missed that.
No. Okay, so back to the prostitutes. So, please, the prostitutes, please.
Okay, yeah.
So it kind of goes with the homeless people, like him attacking people that he believes are beneath him, that he believes are anonymous, that he believes, you know, are easily manipulated and controlled, which he doesn't. He looks at them as inhuman, like, and the only time he calls a prostitute by their name is fake names that he's given them. Like, he gave Sabrina her name, he gave Christy her name.
He calls himself, doesn't he call himself Paul Owen?
At one point, when he brings Sabrina over to his party, he's telling him you're at Paul Owen's. Yeah.
He never uses his name when he's doing stuff like this.
And so, I don't remember what I was saying. Oh! He references the prostitutes, unless he gives them a name, he references them as girls, not women. Yeah. But he only calls them girls. They're completely anonymous. He's like, oh, I brought a girl over last night and, you know, chopped her head off kind of thing. So, anyway, that's just kind of like a side note. But then he brings these prostitutes over. He severely injures Christy.
Both of them at first.
Sabrina, but then he kills Sabrina.
Not in the first interaction. Not in the book, at least.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Sabrina, I'm pretty sure, maybe they changed it up in the movie a little bit.
Christy got away.
It ends with them waking up in the middle of the night, and he goes, "We're not finished yet." And he's opening a drawer that has, like, a nail gun and, like, a clothes hook and a clothes hanger.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really go into, like, detail, but they, like, walk out stumbling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, I think he like, beat them with it or whatever. But, yeah, so I can't remember if Sabrina's the prostitute that comes back later on.
Christy is.
Christy definitely is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure Sabrina got away with, like, minimum, like, injuries.
I feel like they found Sabrina's, like, Christy got away, and then Sabrina was tied up, and he like, really...
That may have been later.
But yeah, I mean, just overarching, it just has to do a lot with physical control, mental control, which I feel like, well, I can't generalize. I've never ordered a prostitute before. I've never, solicited a prostitute before. But I feel like most of the time it is about control. It is about, I'm paying this woman or this man to do whatever I want.
And to pretend to be happy about it.
Right, exactly. So, I think that speaks to his confidence level, both bad and good, like low and high confidence. Like,
yeah. And it's interesting that he can get any woman that he wants in any club, and he does, and he brings them home, but, like, he still goes out and, like, has this, like, weird, like, just something that needs to be
fulfilled.
Yeah, with, like, these prostitutes. Because, like, he'll go to the club and, like, pick up, like, a hard body at the bar. And so it's, like, weird to me that he would go out and, like, get these dirty, like, prostitutes, you know? But it is, I guess it's the being anonymous thing at the end of the day.
What cracks me up is when they're all sleeping together, and then I think it was Christy, one of them, rolls over and kind of, like, stretches her hand out, and he's like, "Don't touch the Rolex."
Yeah, okay, that's something else I was going to say. So let's talk about, and it's one of the questions that we had to answer, if we could ask the author one question. Do you want to go ahead and say yours?
No, you go.
So my one question would be, how long did it take to learn all of the designers and, like, the descriptions of all of the suits? Because it's unreal. Like, anytime somebody is introduced
That's okay.
into the novel, they're not introduced by, like, oh, this is what they... I mean, they are. Like, they're introduced by, like, what they do and stuff. But it's, like, they're wearing this Christian Dior, like, silk blush blouse with a... I can't even...
I wonder if he didn't pick up, like, a stack of, like...
Yeah, I don't know.
A bunch of magazines at the time and just sifted through. It's like,
but
hey,
so, when transitioning it into the movie, so this fact that I found, it says the film had various problems with designer labels during productions.
Okay, that was my question.
So I'm not gonna butcher this name. Cerruti. It's a designer. Cerruti. I don't know. Cerruti. They agreed to allow Christian Bale to wear their clothes, but not when the character was killing anyone. Rolex agreed that anyone in the film could wear their watches except Bateman, and that's why the famous line in the book, "Don't touch the Rolex," had to be changed to "Don't touch the watch."
Okay, good question, because I was going to ask if it was a copyright issue, but it was more of a morality thing. They were like,
there were so many people, and that kind of brings me later on to say, like, Whitney Houston refused to allow any of her songs to be in the film. The song "Hip to Be Square" was on the original soundtrack because it's in the movie when he's killing Paul Allen. But the soundtrack, because at the time they were released on, like, CDs and everything, had to be recalled, and the song was taken off, I guess, just because they didn't really want to be, like, they were okay with it being in the movie, but they didn't want to be, like, that associated with it just because it was so controversial at the time. But I think it's funny now because in retrospect, I feel like to be associated with this movie would be pretty cool. Yeah. Just because of, like, how, like, what a cult, like, movie it's become.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
That's a good way that you bring that up. Like, it's a good segue because I did have a question about that being a copyright issue. But I also had something to say about that. Okay, so the value, I think that his brands, whether it be his clothes, his home, his skincare routine, like the value of his self and other people's lives and his just life in general was placed on material items, which is quite obvious, but it was like, if you think about how he described everyone in the book, that wasn't anyone that was outside of his, his exclusive circle. Like, he described them to a T, but when he talks about Lewis Carruthers, he, like, mentions this brand or that brand, and that's it. Like, he just, like, it's like one or two brands.
He doesn't pay,
but he will give a whole friggin' description about how everyone's dressed at the table. Yeah. And he doesn't talk about strangers in that way, or if he does, he's like, oh, she was wearing, like, a cheap, like, polyester sweater kind of thing. And so I put that, I noted that the lengthy description of designers, home space, self-care routine was, because it was so specialized, it made him feel more special, made him feel more exclusive, made him feel more relevant and important. And everyone in his group were only wearing brands for the sake of brands. There was really no brand loyalty. Like, if you find a brand you really enjoy, you normally just, like, wear the shit out of their clothes. Like, I was joking the other day about Alfred Dunner, which I have no clue. But I like a lot of the clothes that they make/made. I don't know if they even make clothes anymore. But every time I find something that I really love, I'm like, oh my god, of course it's Alfred Dunner. Like, and his was just like, there was so many freaking brands being thrown in your face. And it's such a lengthy description. Like you said, it was and the 80s, if you think about it, everyone says I wasn't born in the 80s, but it's a time of excess. Like, it was a time of excess everywhere. And, like, even drugs. The summary on the back of the book says, it's where the wealthier get wealthy, or the wealthy get wealthier, and the poor and disturbed are turned out to the streets. So, I mean, and even if you think of Wolf on Wall Street, like, Wolf of Wall Street?
The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street. It's nothing about, it's all about, like, excess. And you can kind of see it even in Mad Men and stuff like that. You can see it kind of transitioning towards that. It's a period of overdoing it. And that also... That's
the perfect way to describe it.
The segue, And I also kind of want to talk, speaking of 80s, I want to talk about the AIDS crisis, right? So...
Which I don't think it was brought up at all in the movie.
He mentions it once or twice in the movie. I have it noted. He mentions it once or twice. They're sitting at lunch, and he says, oh, men can't get that. And I have it... written down in the 80s, especially when this is taking place towards the end of the 80s. The AIDS crisis was going on. All these people were, dying and contracting AIDS, and no one knew. And, I could get into a whole conversation about that. But they were so, in the book, they were so focused on not getting AIDS. It was like, literally, like, every chapter, not every chapter, but so many different times, it was like something about not getting AIDS. And I wrote down a quote, guys just cannot get it. Well, not white guys. So, I mean, that's kind of like showing their entitlement, like, oh, we can't get it, we're white guys. Like, guys definitely can't get it. It's all women. And it's all people of color, or, like, queer people. Like, those are the only people that can get it. But, I have it noted, the film doesn't really harp on AIDS just as much as the book does. And they're so focused, and it's like, I guess it's like a more of, like, those people, those people.
It's putting everybody below them again.
And they have, like, a quote in the book. I don't have it written down, but it was like, there is, like, it's a 99.999.
Or it's like a zero. It's 0.00001% that they could get it.
Ever get it, and it's like.
And they're talking about, like, how women, like, they're just, like, bashing on women, and how women are being so annoying and wanting to be protected and everything, Yeah, it's...
So that goes into the whole 80s thing. I mean, it's just the age of excess.
And segueing into the drug use.
Yes. I definitely want to talk about that.
I feel like, I mean, again, the movie downplayed it so much. Just how much, like, cocaine they were snorting, and every single... Like, every time they went out, they were like, all right, who has it? Like, here's some money, you go find somebody who has it. Like, it's like, obsessive. That was the drive. And, I mean...
A literal addiction.
Yeah, and I feel like that's, like, Wall Street, like... What's the word? Wall Street,
Like, lifestyle?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about that because I feel like you said... What?
The wine. Can you pass me the wine?
Oh, I was like, what? It's a ghost. No, we're good. Yeah, that's fine. So, as far as all that goes with the drug use, like you said, it's not mentioned or, brought up nearly as much in the film. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if maybe that's because they were just trying to kind of dull things down. Yeah. And I think, personally, obviously, you have the coke usage, but I think that his mental state deteriorates with how many drugs he's using.
Yeah.
And also, I also want to bring up that it was never, the drugs they used wasn't crack, it wasn't weed. I think he talks about smoking weed once. And
at the concert, weed. And he like has somebody, he's like, I'll take a hit, and who he's with, he's like, why would you do that? That shit's disgusting.
It's only prescription drugs.
Yeah.
It's only high-class drugs. Which isn't crack cocaine? Like crack cocaine. Cocaine is like a strain of crack.
Maybe there's I don't really know. I don't know my
So, okay, there's that. And that's something I want to mention was how many prescription drugs. And the women in their inner circle, we'll call it, were almost always on drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Courtney,
completely hammered.
What was she on? It wasn't Xanax, it was...
oh, gosh. Valium?
Valium.
Yeah.
Always on Valium, always on some sort of, depressant.
Yeah.
And even when she's... Even in the film, when she's at Barcadia, which they couldn't call it Arcadia,
Yeah.
Because, they're in Arcadia in the book, but that makes sense with the... I'm glad you answered that, because I had a lot of my questions were about that.
I bet you anything that you have a question about copywriting, it's because those brands didn't want to be associated with it.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, if you throw money at somebody and you're like, you want to be in our movie?
I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Murder someone in my dress. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so, mental state gets worse with drug usage. He finds a bone in the Dove bar, and he's high in that moment. He's, eating that Dove bar, it's like a chocolate bar, and in his mind, in his psychotic state, he finds a bone in it. Granted, there's not really a bone in it, but he's...
I don't remember that.
Hallucinating to it. It's towards the end when he starts, is before...
The big montage.
Right, the big thing.
Killing.
Which that's something we definitely got to bring up at the very end, because I can't wait to talk about that. And, okay, so we have that. And I will say that I was, at first when I started reading this, I was so surprised about how much classism, homophobia, sexism, racism, all that was in the book. But by the end of it, we would get to a chapter and I'd be like, okay, where's the classism? Okay, where's the sexism, And he even makes a point in the beginning of the film, in the beginning of the book, that's an anti-Semitic remark.
He's like, cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
And he is a huge anti-Semite. When they're trying to go to Dorsia, and he's like, oh, God damn it, we gotta pretend to be Jews. Like, why did it have to be a Jew?
Oh, because he's peeking over, and he, because he doesn't have a reservation, he peeks over the host stand to see who's up next, and it's like a Jewish last name, and he makes a remark. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just I think it kind of spoke to that kind of mental deterioration, or maybe he was showing more of himself to the readers. I'm not quite sure. So, as I want to talk about how when he kills Paul Owen / Allen,
it's Paul
Owen in the book,
Paul Allen in the movie for whatever reason.
It's Timothy Price in the book and Timothy Bryce in the movie.
Which I don't know why the name changed.
I'm not sure. I'll be honest, I didn't. What? Do you hear
Nothing.
Something? Oh,
no.
Scare me. It's dark in our house. It's really dark. But I wanted to talk about that because he kills. You would think his arch nemesis, who is Paul Owen. So the thing I wanted to say about Paul Allen / Owen.
Yes.
We'll just call him Paul Allen because I feel like that rolls off the tongue better than Paul Owen.
Paul Allen.
Paul Allen.
I can hear him saying it. He
kind of
goes, Paul.
Paul Allen. I'm Paul Allen. So when he does kill Paul Allen, who is his arch nemesis in the book, so arch nemesis because he got the Fisher account. Exactly, he has a Fisher account.
And they never explain why, but that is the one thing they harp on.
Well, and he's able, and I'll get into this, but he's able to get into Dorsia, and Patrick Bateman's never ever, he can't get into Dorsia, which I think Dorsia needs to be a conversation in itself. But, he kills Paul Allen and just kills him. He kills him. He doesn't torture him. He doesn't keep him there for long, but he tortures the women. He tortures the prostitutes.
He does.
He doesn't quite torture the homeless people. He tortures the prostitutes to an extent. I mean, it's like there is at one point, we were just talking about this, when when he has that one woman, I'm not even sure if it's a prostitute, but the woman, I'm just going to call her a woman, she was tied up, and he takes a rat that he has been starving.
I think that's somebody he found in a club or something, yeah.
He puts a rat in her vagina and has it just...
eat her from the inside.
Which is... I can't even...
That's one of the most graphic parts of this book,
I think. It's pretty intense.
The way in which he gets it, I don't even know if I want to, like, say it out loud. The way in which he gets the rat into her.
Can you remind me? Because I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. So, fair warning, this is extremely graphic. You won't ever be able to unhear and unsee this in your head. So, so he's already had sex with this woman. He's beaten her at this point, and she's woken up. She's tied up. Her legs are spread, and he has this rat that came through his toilet, like maybe a week or so prior to this happening. He has the rat in a cage, and he's been starving it. And so he takes this woman who I think is pretty coherent. Like, she's beaten to shit.
Right.
And
she's not drugged or anything.
Right.
Or she may not be that much, at least.
Yeah. And so he puts a pipe into her vagina.
Right.
It won't fit, so he puts acid on it, and then he connects the other end of the pipe to the cage the rat is in, has the rat crawl up it. Oh, he puts brie.
I love brie, though. Side note, I love brie. I know, brie.
He puts brie on this woman so it would attract the rat.
The hungry rat.
And as soon as the rat goes through the pipe and is into the woman, he takes the pipe out, and it describes it like crawling around and like her like stomach. Oh, it's really awful. Bad.
In which she
I don't even remember why we brought this part up. I'm like tearing up.
Well, it goes to show that, I mean, he has an arch nemesis who he hates.
But he would, yeah.
But he won't torture him. Why wouldn't he torture him? I feel like, if anything, he would kill prostitutes. Let's use the word women, because I feel like I keep calling, because there's some women that are prostitutes, some women are just women.
Yeah.
He's bringing these women in his apartments. He's torturing the absolute shit out of him, but he has his arch nemesis in his apartment, at his will, drunk as shit, and he doesn't torture him.
The worst thing he does...
kills it, and he puts him in a body bag, and he chops him up. That's it.
Yeah. And, I mean, it is a little bit more graphic in the book. In the book, he does hit him in the face with the axe a few times.
Right.
To the point where he's still, like, alive and kind of can figure out... I feel like at that point, like, I don't even want to know what you would think at that point, but... Yeah, he hits him in the face a few times, so he at least, like, knows what's going on, right. But it's not nearly, like, with the other women, he'll, like, torture them from, like, anywhere from, like, 15 minutes to, like, an hour. And days.
Yeah, that one girl there for days. Yeah, it's intense. The torture scenes he describes, I mean, goes from anywhere between, you know, I put a rat through a pipe into her vagina and made it eat her from the inside out, to he does this with two girls, I think, or at least two. He nails their hands to boards, and then he will, like, or he'll nail through their fingers, or he'll nail through their hands, and he'll chop off fingers, or he'll, like, you know, he talks about chopping off their breasts, and, like, you know,
with Christy in the book, because Christy in the book, and, is it Bethany, the friend?
I need to talk about that, yeah.
Their deaths in the books are completely different from the movies. Because with Christy, he puts, I don't even know what it is, but it's like electroshock things, like he on literally her breasts. Yeah, off. Until they literally explode.
Yeah. And in the movie, she gets away, yeah. He throws a chainsaw down.
Which is the only chainsaw in the book is the woman with the rat in her. He chops her in half.
Yeah. And that gets me, I need to talk about Dorothea, right? Okay. So we have Dorothea, which is like a cornerstone in the film. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I would say so.
So Dorothea, which I think is a point of contention for Patrick Bateman, because like I was saying earlier with Paul Allen, like, he can't get into Dorothea like Paul Allen is. He's, I have Paul and Allen, when they're in their conference meeting, oh, I have a reservation at Dorsia tonight. He's like, Dorsia? Like, you can tell he's, like, pissed. He tries to make reservations with his receptionist to take her to Dorsia. In both the movie, the movie and the film, the movie and the book, he gets rejected and laughed at on the phone. They're like,
literally laughed at.
Do you want to make a reservation to Dorsia tonight at 8 p.m.? Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
So he has this, Dorsia has, like, this pain in his side, and I have something written down about that. I need to find it because, so it's a full circle with Dorsia, right? So, and I wish they would have included this in the film because Bethany, so she is an ex-girlfriend that came back from Harvard. The only girl in the film in the book that he mentions rejects him.
Yeah.
So it's the only girl that's rejected him as far as we know up to this point. Yeah. She's rejected him back in Harvard when it was, or maybe it was at boarding. I think it was at Harvard when he was getting his master's, like an MBA at Harvard. And this girl, Bethany, this woman who kind of rejects him, he runs into her.
It was implied, they had dated, and it was implied that he had abused her, because I remember in the book it says something about her having her arm in a sling whenever she broke up with him.
Right. So she leaves him, rightfully so.
Yeah.
She meets up with him, you know, they run into one another, and he's like, let's go, like, get dinner, blah, blah, blah. She starts talking. She says, you know, I'm actually seeing someone, because he's, like, trying to, like, pry at her, you know. Like, she says, I'm seeing someone. Oh, who is that? He's the co-owner of Dorsia.
Yeah, or he's the cook, right? Or the chef.
I think he was the co-owner.
Oh.
And he was, we'll look that up, because I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure he was the co-owner, because there was, like, a big thing about it. Like, he had a really important role there. So co-owner, chef, either way, he had a really important role, a vital role at Dorsia. So he has this, he's seeing this woman who's rejected him, who has gotten away from him, and she's dating this really important person associated with this restaurant. That's also like a pain in his
restaurant
ass. Right, that he could never get into, that he also gets rejected by.
Yeah.
Which is why Bethany's her death was so violent. Her death was I would say by far one of the worst deaths of the book.
Yeah.
And I was really bummed that they didn't bring it into the film, because I felt like that was a really important part of the film, and it had something to do with his rejection.
Important part of the book?
Important. Yeah. And I feel like it would have been a really important part of the film, but the death, and he only mentions Bethany briefly. He's like, I had an ex-girlfriend. In the film.
Which I want to bring up, but after we talk about this. No, I want to, like, finish this thought. I think I didn't even compare those two things. And it's so interesting, too, that whenever he goes to meet up with her at lunch, he is so nervous. Like, you don't see him break a sweat at all.
Yeah.
Like, he's always in control of, like, his emotions.
I get what you mean. Like,
slightly.
100%.
But the fact that he was so nervous going into this, and then it was almost like being rejected all over again right in that moment.
Yep.
Basically forces her to his apartment. Like, she almost gets away again, but he's like, no. Like,
you're coming with me.
Yeah.
And he convinces her, though, with his immense charm, like most serial killers have.
Yeah.
It's like this charm, which is why so many I have had wine now. So many serial killers have gotten away with their murder, like, in real life, by being extremely charming and extremely smart and capable, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and also, I do want to bring up, too, is every time he mentions, he wants to bring Courtney out to dinner. He wants to bring John, we'll call her Jean.
I call her Jean, yeah.
The receptionist, Jean. He wants to bring them out to dinner. He asks for a reservation at Dorsia, but he can't get a reservation, so they go to Arcadia with Courtney. She falls asleep there, but the way he gets her on the phone is he's like, Dorsia at 9, and then she like sparks up and she's like, Dorsia?
Yeah.
And then Jean, when he is asking her, hey, let me take you out to dinner. Where do you want to go tonight? Blah, blah, blah. She goes, I don't know. I mean, she's like a simpleton compared to him in his mind. I don't know. Dorsia? And you can kind of see him, like, flinch a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when he calls, and they laugh in his face.
Yeah.
Again. So, there's that. And that's when he's like, Dorsia at 9? We'll be there, blah, blah, blah. And that's when he tries to go to Dorsia. But that's the difference between the film and the book, was that the film shows them, you know, Jean just goes to his apartment, and then he almost murders her, but he's like, nah, never mind. And she's like, I gotta go. And the phone call interrupts it. But in the movie, they actually go to Dorcia, or in the book, they actually go to Dorcia.
And he fakes the name.
He gets rejected again. They kick him out of Dorcia.
Yeah.
So that's all I gotta say about Dorcia.
And going off of all of that, I need to have better organized notes.
No, I mean, I can't even find half of my notes. I don't even know where I put them.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, going off of, like, Bethany and everything, and just how Bethany, I really think she should have been in the movie. If it was remade, that's definitely something that I think they should add in. 100%. I know there's, like, very little they could show because the rating, I'll go ahead and say this. Initially, the movie was given an NC-17 rating by the MPAA, the Cinematic Kiss of Death, due to the distribution difficulties. I guess it's, like, even harder than R-rated. So Mary Harron argued against the rating and was forced to make some minor trims to the movie, which I wish I could, like, know what was taken out, but it was to give it a rated R. Yeah, and if they had, what director was it? One of the directors wanted to do it. Stuart Gordon was the one that wanted to do it, like, as close to the novel as possible.
Really?
And it said that he wanted to do it in black and white, which is really interesting. But it would have guaranteed the movie be X-rated. Yeah. And that would have, especially in 2000, like, I mean, now I feel like people have a little bit more tolerance, unfortunately, for that kind of violence and stuff.
That's what I need to talk about, too. Like, we keep saying that, so I need to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, but Bethany and all that, there are so many murders and things that happen in the book that aren't put on in the movie, which shouldn't be in the movie. It's terrible, but pretty much any murder that happens in the book that didn't make it into the movie is talked about in that phone call during that, like, scene where he's, like, running around shooting everybody. Like, he goes to his office, he thinks he's about to be caught, and he's calling his lawyer. He mentions, like, oh, my girlfriend Bethany, I killed her with a nail gun. Yeah. Like, she's, like, he describes all these different things, which every time I watched the movie before I read the book, I was like, oh, it's just all these different things he's saying. But it's all, like, from the book, just things that they couldn't put in, which I thought was... And it was nice that they could at least, like, mention it in that way.
Well, Bethany's torture passage was the longest torture he has in the book. And also, if you think about it, at the very end, when he's having this mental break, Jean is looking through his...
Do you call her Jean in your head?
In my head, I call her Jean. I don't know why. It's Jean. And
he calls her Jean in the movie.
We'll call her Jean. Jean just is weird because I think about jeans, and I'm just like, that's not her name. Or I spell Jean with a G in my head.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jean is looking through his notebook. Remember when he's
in the movie, yeah.
Right. If you look at every single illustration in that notebook, it matches up to the book.
Really? I need to go back and look at that.
There's women getting electrocuted by their breasts. There's women tied up. There's women knotted or nailed through boards. There's a rat eating. There's, like, something in a woman's vagina. If you look, and it's just a brief, it's a couple seconds. But I think that was Mary's way of, her way of getting that graphic, real raw shit into the book into the movie. I keep getting the two words mixed up. Into the movie without
being able to show it. Yeah. Wow.
So if you go back and look at that was one of the things I noticed.
I appreciate things like that at least.
I lost a page of my notes. I don't know where it would have gone.
Is it right here?
No, I don't know where. I had like 5 pages. Well, I guess.
Speaking of things that didn't really translate. So, this kind of brings me into, like, our favorite quotes, but, so one of my favorite quotes is one of, like, the last quotes in the movie, I think, but it, like, comes about, like, pretty, like maybe 3/4 of the way into the book. It's, like, kind of towards the end, but not really. But, so the last sentence or the last words in the novel is, "This is not an exit." I need to rewatch it to, like, look for it, but there's a sign reading, "This is not an exit" in the closing scene.
Yep. And the fact that they were going to close it, like, Ellis was thinking about closing it on the top of the World Trade Center. At first I was like, no, and then I was like, maybe. But then I was like, fuck no, because the fact that he has "this is not an exit" plaque behind his head, and he doesn't say "this is not an exit," he just says it's just, he says the last quote, but then the last quote of the book says "this is not an exit."
Mm-hmm.
And I was blown away when I saw that. I was like, I noticed it was just very subtly, okay baby, I'm coming, it's my dog, she's whining, I think she needs to go out, but it was just very subtle in the background. Oh my god, I saw it and I almost cried. I was like, this.
I need to rewatch it now.
Freaking director. You can. It's like very soft and in the background, which is good. I think blatant symbolism is fine,
mm-hmm.
but like, all right, I'm coming. Blatant symbolism is fine, but hidden symbolism is even better.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I guess we'll stop here for episode 1.
Yeah. Look forward to episode 2 in 2 weeks, August 31st.
August 31st.
Today is August 17th.
And that'll just be a continuation of this discussion.
You're welcome.
See you then.
Bye.
Oh, God.
All right, our intro.
All right, welcome back to Book Club for Bitches Who Don't Read, episode 2.
Oh, you wanted to record an intro for episode 2.
Oh my God, there's so much.
I thought we were talking about like our intro.
Oh no.
We should keep that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
All right, welcome back to the Book Club for Bitches Who Don't Read.
Episode 2.
Our final episode on the American Psycho discussion.
I love you.
Yeah. I don't know how to segue into
I love you too.
I'm sorry, I love you too. I thought you were saying it to them.
I love them too.
I love you though.
I love you.
All right.
I love
That's the
you.
best one. Let's keep it. Oh, this is a fun fact. I don't know if we should even put it in or not, but when they were discussing when Mary Harron and Patrick Bateman,
mm-hmm.
when Mary Harron and Christian Bale were discussing the sex scene in the movie, the first one with Christy and Sabrina,
mm-hmm.
He was drawing stick figure positions of what he thought looked best and what he thought would look best on camera. But I think that's so funny that it went that in depth.
And that he was that egotistical to be like, this is what's gonna look best.
Well, I mean, and just I guess to be that aware of yourself
mm-hmm.
and how you look on camera and in that situation and just being confident enough to be this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if you watch the scene, it's it's intense.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed though because in the movie God damn it, I keep throwing that in the book. The book with the B. Okay. The book, he talks about leaving his socks on during sex, and in the movie he didn't get to leave his socks on, which I was kind of bummed about. I would have loved to seen him.
He has tennis shoes on.
Not in the sex scene.
Yes, he does.
I made sure of it.
When does he have? Oh, that's whenever he's chasing after Christy with the chainsaw. He has tennis shoes and nothing else.
Yeah, but he had socks on. God bless. He has socks on. So let's talk about. Just what I wanted to mention really fast was in more of the film than the book was that right before he was about to murder, have a murder scene. That he would, an intense murder scene. I'm not talking about him slashing a homeless guy's face open or him stabbing a homeless guy.
That's child's play.
Yeah, for him, yeah. And for the movie, in the grand scheme of everything, child's play.
Mm-hmm.
But right before he's about to have an intense murder scene, he has a talk about music. So right before he is about to murder Paul Allen, he talks about Huey Lewis
Hip
and
to
the
be
News.
square. Yep.
Before he murders Elizabeth, the friend, and Christy, he talks about Whitney Houston. So I just it was I guess it's an obsessive thing. I don't know if it was maybe a.
It's almost meditative, almost
right, exactly.
He's getting himself into that zone.
That was just something I wanted to bring up.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was funny too how anytime he brought it up, at least the first time I saw the movie or something, maybe the first few times, but I thought it was funny because the people he was discussing this with just did not give a shit. They didn't care about the music. They didn't care about the artist. They didn't care about any of the information he was telling them. And so I feel in a way, it almost, it put him on a little bit higher than them, but in a different sense. He was a little bit more intelligent. He was a little bit more well-cultured almost. Just because, I don't know. It's weird to say that because he's such a terrible person, but I just thought that was interesting.
He goes with the whole entitlement theme.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you want to bring up before the psychotic break? So, you go.
Just another fun tidbit. The name Bateman is derived from the main character of the movie Psycho, Norman Bates.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So, and I think that's like an interesting homage. And I wonder if that's kind of where the name came from.
Yeah.
American Psycho.
Well, let's talk about that, the name.
Yeah.
So, American Psycho, give me your read down on that.
So I haven't really thought about it that much until you brought it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what you already told me. Like, it's kind of like the American dream, but...
Right. Yeah, because if you think about Patrick Bateman, he is, like, the epitome of the American dream, especially at that time of, like, he lives in this amazing apartment. He spends $400 on bath towels kind of thing. Like, it's the life that everyone, quote unquote, wants to be living, you know? So he lives the American dream. He is the American. He's very entitled. He's
beautiful. He's
exactly.
Like who everybody wants to look
healthy,
like. He's to be with.
Exactly. So I just think that was really the only thing I had to say about the title was that it like really mirrored that. And then also obviously he's psychotic.
Yeah.
But then that goes into I really don't want to get into it because that's like a whole different conversation.
What, the ending?
Psychotic. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me make sure there's not anything else I need to bring up. Oh, let's bring up the business card scene.
Okay.
So, the only thing I really have to say about that, because the business card scene is so iconic that it kind of has its own, like, life, I think. The only thing I want to say about it is I thought it was interesting how Patrick Bateman's business card was bone-colored.
Yeah. That's bone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
it's bone. And then also how they all had the title of vice president. Like, it's all about the title.
Yeah.
Like, none of them, like, yeah, they all did the same job, but it was all about the title. I'm vice president, so vice president of mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Like, but they were all vice presidents. Like, how many? There can't be 11 vice presidents.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That's when it becomes a partnership. And then the fact that, do you want to say anything about the business card scene before?
Yeah. Well, I already discussed this with you, but I'll just say it again. When I was looking up information on Mary Harron before we decided to kind of split the backgrounds, I found a video of, like, the anatomy of a scene with directors, which is, like, a common thing. Like, you can find it for, like, all different movies and stuff. But it was cool because it was that business card scene.
I'm going to finish this.
Yeah, that's fine. With,
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm done.
It was that business scene with Mary Harron commentating over it. Commenting over it. I don't know.
Commentating sounds right.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah.
Commentation.
Nothing. All the words coming out of my mouth sound wrong.
No, they definitely don't.
She had a quote, and I had written it down, then I lost it. But it was basically just saying how every man that came into that boardroom in the meeting or in the movie had on the same exact suit. He had the same exact haircut. It was all about that masculinity and that, like, competition, and it just, that scene just, like,
and absolutely no individuality, but at the same time thinking you're so important.
Yeah, everybody's business card looks the exact same.
Just a tiny, like, minor details, but it's so important to them.
It's so important.
Because, I mean, like, how menial is that like, your life is that insignificant that it's almost that significant. You know what I mean? And that brings up a good point about, like, all their names getting switched around. It's like everyone's just like,
everybody mistakes each other for everyone else.
Just a nameless face. Like, oh, he's so and so, and they argue about it sometimes. They're like, no, that's so and so. That's not who you think. And, like, no, I'm pretty sure that's, you know, whomever.
And before I read the book, I never noticed how much it happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's almost funny in the book how often it happens where they're like, oh, that's Paul Allen. No, that's
in the first scene.
Van Patten.
Yeah,
like,
in the first scene, he's like, isn't that Paul Allen over there? And I was like, that's not Jared Leto. Like, and it turns out it's really not. And so, I think that just goes with the whole thing. Like,
but it's so funny because
with anonymity.
Yeah.
Anonymity.
And because they want so badly to be, like, I don't even know how to get that across.
Yeah, I, like, sense it, what you mean.
Like, they're all the exact same. They're all trying to be the exact same, but they think they're all trying to be different and, like, better. I don't know. It's
a competition with no competition. It's, like, literally, like, a bunch of, like, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it without sounding crazy, but I know what you mean. Like, it was. I think that Oh, yeah. Well, just the fact that, they're all competing for brands. They're all competing for the best, fashion expertise. Like, they're always asking Bateman, like, hey, what's the code on this? Like, it's so important to them. Because, and you think about the average Joe at that time, like, what exactly was important to him, Not whether you should wear a pin in your tie to a dinner at 4:00 in the evening. It was like, it's just it's so, and like, they think of themselves as so high up and being so important and having all this priority, but it's like the things that they would stress over were so friggin' menial. It's like something you would stress over in high school. Should I wear these Sperry's?
Yeah, can I wear this dinner jacket out? Yeah,
like Sperry's with Bermuda shorts.
Yeah, no, that was one of the questions. I think was can you wear loafers with like pantsuit or something?
Yeah, and like what kind of tie should you wear with a
and what color?
Yeah. It's like the smallest.
Yeah, what belt color you should match.
It's like how boring is your life if that's what you're focusing on?
Yeah, and so heavily.
Yeah.
This is another trivia thing. The only parts of the movie that the author, Bret Easton Ellis, didn't like was Patrick Bateman's moonwalk during the Paul Allen murder scene. Like, when he's moonwalking back, with the axe in his hand. And the voiceover, which he felt was too explicit. Which I think the voiceover, I feel like it's so easy to make a voiceover in a movie cheesy. And just, because, I mean, any movie, you want to show, not tell.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you need that narration. I think, this is such a random example, but Twilight did the same thing. Where,
that's our next one.
yeah. Where Bella, I think the book is fantastic. It definitely is a young adult, fantasy
Most
thing.
Definitely.
But that was one of those books where it was very much in their head all the time. And I guess you can say the same for, literally, anything else, in... I don't know what person that would be. Would that be first person?
I would say his book is so first person that it's
But, in the movie Twilight, her voiceover was terrible. I thought, it just takes you out of it. But with this, I thought that it was so, necessary. I think without it, it wouldn't have been the same because, I don't know, that's all I have to say about that. I just don't think, I think without the narration, and for the narration was pretty much verbatim from the book, too.
Yeah.
And without that, I don't think you would get inside of his head as much as you do in the movie.
Yeah, because the book is literally inside of his head.
Yeah.
There's really no... Even when he's having outside interactions with people, he's still in his head.
Yeah.
So in his head...
Yes.
I'm just going to bring up just a couple of points. Is that I think, from start to finish, is pretty obvious. His psychotic, his mental state becomes more and more deteriorated every time... Every chapter that passes by, every page that passes by, it gets worse and worse and worse. So he goes from... Remember, he's, obsessed with this Patty Winters show. He watches it every day.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what it's going to be about. It goes from Patty Winters. Today, she's going to interview, a...
Every chapter, it was in this morning's episode,
right,
it was
exactly.
this.
So if you think about the first episode that he mentions of Patty Winters, I don't remember what it is, but... new ovens that are coming to market in 1980, whatever. And at the very end, you get, Patty Winters' show is extremely, explicit. It's dark. He's Patty Winters explains how, I'm just saying this. I don't know if it's verbatim, but Patty Winters explains how a wife chopped her husband's head off and ate it for dinner. Which, by the way, he does eat bodies in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that he briefly mentions on the phone call to his lawyer when he's having that breakdown.
And
he says, I even ate a little bit. In the book, he makes them into sausages.
Yeah.
He tries to make a meatloaf.
Yeah.
He eats their raw brains. He makes a girl watch a video that he took of himself eating brains, which has to affect him in some way. That, raw, human, organs and flesh, you can't consume that.
Right. Yeah.
You shouldn't, at least.
If you can, it's
But that had to.
Yeah. So his mental state keeps deteriorating, and remember, he will say things throughout the book, someone the woman he's talking to in the club, what do you do for a living? I work in murders and executions. And she's like, well, I've heard a lot of men in mergers and acquisitions. Yeah. So he has like little slip-ups here and there.
Well, I don't think there's slip-ups. I think he's so confident that he's not going to get caught that he can say that stuff.
That's where we differ. Because I think he like actually says those things in his head. He's like, you know, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But then at the very end, people start catching on to it. That's why I think he is not actually saying it. Like, I think he's thinking it, and then sometimes he's actually saying it out loud.
I think he's saying it.
So that's where we differ. We differ. But
it's fine.
It's good. No, that's what we need. What would a podcast be without differing opinions?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, okay, so that's really all I had to say was about the Patty Winter show.
Well, so I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So I want to say, I think he's saying it because pretty much in every situation he's talking about that. It's very brief. He's talking to someone who's on drugs or kind of, you know, a little, like that girl he was talking to was like a model, and I mean, he described her as
hard body.
Yeah, and like he described her as not like being all there, but that's also his description of her. Like so, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But and like they're in loud places and stuff, and so I think he's saying it, and they're just hearing what they want to hear and like what they think they're hearing. And I think he's so confident that he's not going to get caught, and he's so crazy that he's like, I'm in murders and executions. Or with the bartender, because I remember watching the movie for the first time, and he's like, I want to stab you to death and play with your blood.
Yeah.
And in the book it describes it, it's so loud in there that she can't hear him, and like, I don't know.
So in a situation like that, I think I would agree with that. But like when he's having dinner, but it also, you could bring up that point, like you could make that point by saying like none of them really even pay attention to one another. Like they're so self-absorbed that they're like, oh yeah, Bateman, blah 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 blah, and then he says, you know, so and so, and.
Well, it's interesting. In the movie, he says something about, like, ramming a pipe, like, into a woman.
Yeah.
And they take that as, like, it's, like, his, like, it's, like, a manly, like, competition thing.
Right.
Like, we get it, like...
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I thought that he was bringing it in, like, he would be thinking these things, and then he would actually say them towards the end, because he's, like, slowly starts losing his shit. Like, he becomes more and more sloppy.
He becomes so careless.
So... You want to talk about the end of the book?
Yeah.
Okay. So Alex and I have differing opinions on the end of the book. And if you read this book, if you've seen the movie, there's you get the gist if you've seen the movie.
And this happens a little bit before the end of the book. And I guess a little bit before the end
You're
of the
right,
movie.
You're right, It's like just maybe like 2 chapters before the end of the book. 2 chapters?
Yeah,
3 chapters?
Yeah.
Briefly before the end of the book. So we have some conflicting opinions. So what happens in I will say just in general, is that Patrick Bateman goes on a murder spree.
Yeah. So in the book, it's set off because he leaves dinner. He's like fiending. Like he talks about his like lust for blood. Like in the book, he shoots a street performer who he's playing a saxophone. He shoots him in the head, and his silencer doesn't work.
Right.
So it
alarms the cops.
And
we're like around the corner. Anyway.
Yeah. And in the movie, he shoots.
Oh, that scared me. Woo! Alright, I'm awake now.
Haley's dog just dropped her bone, and it's fine.
Again, we have a haunted house.
Yeah, so in the movie, it's set off by him attempting to shove a cat into an ATM.
Right,
and when the ATM reads "Feed me a cat," I think that's definitely him like seeing things. Like,
right.
Obviously, it's not going to.
It says that in the book too. It says something very similar.
Yeah,
him
and an older woman comes up to him, and she's like, "What are you doing? Don't do that!" And he shoots her, and that's what alarms the cops. So that's where it differs, but everything else is pretty much the same. So
right. So, he just goes on this murder spree pretty much running from the cops. He has a shootout with the cops. And in the film, at least, he kills, like, 1 or 2 cops.
That's what happens in the... Well, okay, so in the book, that does kind of differ. He gets in a taxi. Right. He shoots the taxi driver, takes the taxi, like, runs it up on a sidewalk. And that's where they have, like, the altercation with cops. And in the movie, I think he's in, like, an alleyway or something, and he's, like, running from them.
Yeah, and so he like I said, he goes on this spree where he's just, like, killing all these people. Yeah. He goes into he tries to find his work building.
And so I thought that was interesting, too, because it doesn't explain, in the book, his office changes buildings.
Right.
And so in the movie, all you see is him run into this building, shoot the secretary, go through the revolving door, come back, shoot the janitor, and then leave. And in the movie, you're like, why? What? Yeah. But it's because it's the wrong building. Right. And he goes through, like, I thought it was almost humorous at first that he goes through the revolving door so many times, but it's because he sees that janitor and he has to come back in.
Right, because he's already seen his face. Yeah. So he goes there, and then he finally goes to his work building.
Which is the next building over.
Right. So he goes in his work building. He shoots the security guard.
Well, in his building, he signs in.
Right, exactly, exactly. And then, so he goes upstairs.
To his office.
And he calls his lawyer. And he says, you know, I've done all this stuff. He goes into detail about...
It's like 30 to like hundreds of people that he's
He pretty much wraps up the book in one phone call, which is not what we're doing right now.
Right.
An hour later. But he goes into all this detail to his lawyer, who he gets his voicemail. He doesn't get him on the phone. So he leaves him a voicemail talking in detail about what he's done. He says, you know, I've eaten some of them, blah, blah, blah. I killed my ex-girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. It's like a whole thing. So
he's admitting to all of it.
Right.
He's telling him, like, because at this point in the movie and the book, Paul Owen has been missing. Everybody, like, he's made people think that he's in, France or something, England, because he, like, leaves that, like, voicemail on his thing, and it's, like, a whole thing, and he's saying, like, no, like, I killed him, he's in this building in, like, Hell's Kitchen.
Because he has a side apartment in Hell's Kitchen where he brings some bodies.
It doesn't show it doesn't explain it in the movie.
He says it one time. He says it one time on the phone call. Yeah. He says he's in an apartment in Hell's Kitchen. He doesn't mention that he has, like, some side apartment in Hell's Kitchen.
But he takes his men to there to like he pours lye or something over them to like dissolve lime. Yeah, to dissolve the body. It's lime or something. And it dissolves the body. But he discusses in the book he doesn't want to take his women victims there because he doesn't want the men and the women in the same for whatever reason.
Because he's sexist.
Yeah.
So he goes into this whole thing. He's admitting to his lawyer, and then a couple days later, he runs into his lawyer, or the next day, a couple days later.
I think it's a couple days later.
A significant amount of time later.
And the book and the movie differ in this part, and I want to talk about that too.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, so he runs into his lawyer. I can't remember. I think it's in a club in the book. It's like in Terminal or something. Yeah. And then in the movie, it's in like a little restaurant.
Lunch spot, yeah.
And so, in the book, the lawyer makes it seem like it was a prank phone call, and he does in the movie as well. He's like, good one, like, very Patrick funny, Bateman would never do that, like this and that.
And
like,
the cops were after him at this point. Like,
but they went to that other building.
Right, when he had this psychotic break.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, in the book, he's talking to his lawyer, and he's like, did you get my message? And he's like, yeah, like, good one, that's really funny, like, Patrick Bateman would never do that. Like, he's, like, so cookie cutter. If you told me it was this guy or this guy, I'd probably believe you.
He thinks he's Marcus Halberstrom, right?
I know in the movie he doesn't. I'm pretty sure in both.
He's like, what's up, Marcus? Like,
yeah.
I'm probably getting that wrong.
I can't remember now I know in the movie he has to say, like, I'm Patrick Bateman.
Right, yeah.
I can't remember if that's the same case in the... I'm sure it's the same case in the...
Keep talking about
in the book, because... It had to be. But so in the book, he seems like it's like a prank and he kind of plays it off. In the movie, I don't know if that was the intention, but in the movie, and my impression all along up until when I read the book, was that the lawyer was covering his ass. Yeah. Because he kind of stops him and he's like, no, like, Paul Owen is in, like, England, like, so-and-so had lunch with him, and he kind of looks at him in a way where it's like, stop talking, you have an alibi, like, so in the movie, I thought the lawyer understood what was going on and was just kind of like, shut up, and, like, you'll be fine. Yeah. But in the book, it kind of makes it seem like he really didn't believe him, and he was just like, oh, good prank, haha, like, and that's that.
I can't find it in the book right now.
I think that's all I was gonna say. But I think it did happen. I think he's so careless and crazy that he did, like, just like go on that rampage, and it spiraled so far out of control. But what are you gonna say?
So I think now the first time I watched the movie, I've seen the movie a handful of times before we read the book. So the first time I watched the movie, I thought the same thing as you. I thought he's went on this rampage. He's so rich and entitled. I keep using that word entitled, but if I had to describe the book in one word, it would be entitlement.
Absolutely.
And so he's so fortunate, quote unquote, in that way that he's able to get away with it. But then I also had this burning feeling that there's no fucking way. I know the cops in the movie, at least before I read the book, were after him with a helicopter.
Yeah, they are in the book too.
Okay, he's killed 2 cops at this point. They're not gonna let that go. Like, they're not gonna, like, and at this point, yeah, I know he's killed pretty much everyone he's ever seen, but had the lawyer known that he was wanted, like, I feel like the cops would also know he was wanted. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I've had wine too, so I'm not really explaining this as well as I want to explain it, but like, I feel like if the lawyer knows he did it, the cops probably know he did it too. Or, like, because there's, I mean, he called the lawyer. Well, the cops don't know
who he is.
Well, he called the lawyer. He's told him all this stuff. And the lawyer, gets him confused with a person in the book. He's like, he was like, oh, if you told me it was Patrick Bateman that did it. And he's like, I'm Patrick Bateman. Like,
yeah.
And the guy's like, no, like, very funny, blah, blah, blah. So I think the fact that they all get each other's names mixed up actually worked out his favor.
Yeah.
Because and I don't think that he hasn't done any of these murders. Like, I think that he's done all of these murders, but I think that very end, that psychotic break, I don't think that happened. When he fed the cat to the ATM, like, when all of
that didn't happen in the book, though.
Right, when it told him, it told him to, like, I think that was, like, not the start of it, but when he starts having that breakdown where I need to murder, he's using drugs really heavily at that point.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
I can't remember in the book if it happens before or after this, but his phone call with Jean where he calls her from the payphone and he's like, he pops open the pills and he's like trying to take them and he's sweating and he's like, he feels like he's having a panic attack. It happens in the movie too, briefly, not to like the extent where it describes it in the book, but he was just like, I can't come into the office today, this and that. And that, I think, is where it started falling.
Because he's so put together up until this point, and then finally he's gotten to the point either, no matter what you believe, he's having a break. Like, no matter how you believe it actually ends. So, in my opinion, I don't think he went on a murder spree. That's just my opinion. And I think that, like I said, the phone call, I think the phone call was real. Mm-hmm. But the fact that his lawyer didn't even recognize who he was at first. Because then I was reading, I remember reading it and thinking, God, is his name even Patrick Bateman? Like, like, who, like... Yeah. But then it was on his business card. Like, people call him Bateman. Evelyn calls him Bateman. So he is Patrick Bateman. Yeah. But I remember thinking, like, it was... The ending is confusing. But my personal opinion is that he has murdered up until this point. But I think he just had a break. Like, I think he wanted to murder. Maybe he killed one person and then got really paranoid that he heard a cop siren. And then all of a sudden he just went on this, you know. I don't know. I can't say for sure if he killed all those people. But I know for sure that the cops with the helicopter, like, I don't know. And they're like, come out. Like, we know you're there. Was that me? Yeah. I'm so paranoid. But, damn, haunted house. But, yeah, I don't know. That's just, I'm really, like, keen on that point. It's like, I think he had a break. And, like, he was using a lot of drugs and he was having, like, a really weird moment.
Well, so, okay.
Yeah, go for it.
It's not in the movie, and so I can see how in the movie you would feel that way. And obviously, you're totally valid in your opinions, and I completely
validity.
Agree. But in the book, later on, he gets kind of abducted from that taxi driver who recognizes him.
Yeah, that is true.
And he's like, you killed that guy, this other taxi driver. And he's like, I think you got me mistaken for someone else. So at least some of that, like,
But it's so one-off, though. They were like, oh, your wanted poster is downtown with your face on it. So if this wanted poster is downtown with his face on it, like, how are the cops... Now, if he killed 2 cops, if his face was on a wanted poster, the cops would be after him.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I think... And now the taxi
But it's also 80s.
But the taxi driver thing was so random.
Yeah. And he didn't kill him. He didn't do anything. He just robbed him of a few things.
Right, exactly. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I just think you know, just getting personal, but cops go after, like, if anyone kills their own kind, it's game over. Like, they're going to find that person. Their face is on a wanted poster, they're going to look for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if if the lawyer is aware of it. And also, I think that the lawyer is, like, when he's, like, kind of freaked out, he's like, all right, like, in the movie, that brings up a good point, too. So when he is just before all this happened, and he goes to Paul Owen's apartment, and the prostitutes are supposed to be in the closet. He has one of them decapitated. He has all of them, like, hidden in the closet. He goes over the apartment, and it's completely cleaned up. Paul Owen's stuff's not there.
Yeah.
The realtor's there.
That's true.
Being painted. I think he murdered up until this point. I think Paul Owen, he did murder him. I think he got away with murder because Paul Owen probably got framed for that murder. Because if you think about it,
that's in his apartment.
And the detective says it several times. His family doesn't want this brought up. Like, they don't want his whole missing persons thing brought up. We're keeping it very quiet. Because it is such a, like, a she, like, society. Like, I feel like it's so hush-hush, you know what I mean? Like, I think that they went to his apartment maybe to look again or something like that. I don't know what the premise could have been.
Right.
But they went in there, looked around, smelled dead bodies, found a bunch of dead prostitutes, and were like, because at that point,
And he writes on the wall, too. Right. He says, I'm back, or something of that nature.
So I think Paul Owen he's murdered at that point, but I think he gets framed for those prostitutes murders.
Yeah.
And then that's why they think he ran off to England. And that's why when the lawyer says, I had lunch with him last week, the lawyer doesn't even know who Patrick Bateman is by name. So who knows? He could have thought he had lunch with Paul Owen, but he could have had lunch with, Haley Black.
Mm-hmm.
Hair flip. But yeah, so I think he got framed for that. I think I actually wrote something down about that.
That's a really great point, though, because I always did wonder, and I kind of thought, like, oh, his lawyer just covered it, but why would he if he was, like...
Right, but that explains why the realtor was so dismissive. She was like, just leave. Get out of here. Go. He obviously knows something. The realtor...
And he asks, he's like, I'm looking for Paul Owen. Like,
yeah.
Does he not live here anymore? She's like, I think it's best if you leave.
They're repainting. All the furniture's gone.
Yeah.
Like...
Everything's
Paul
gone.
Owen's dead, like, at that point. So that's the whole... And, like, the floors were all, like, clean. Everything's covered up. So that's my only thing. Mm-hmm. Now, in the film, when he does chase Christy through Paul Owen's apartment building, I think that's... either that was for theatrical reasons. I mean, it's not in the book. But no one can chase someone through a...
And be screaming and banging on doors.
Naked.
Yeah.
And with a chainsaw, and then drop the chainsaw, like, directly on her.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that was just a way to tone down Christy's death, but still kill her in a way. But that also kind of gives the evidence of, like, if you wanted to believe that everything, because there are theories out there that everything was fake. Like, everything was in his head. Like, every single murder was in his head, blah, blah, blah. Like, that could be a reasoning for that.
Yeah.
Like, but that's as far as I think, and I think the lawyer... is probably aware. If he's a lawyer for Patrick Bateman, he might be a lawyer for Paul Owen, that whole, like, societal group. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But, that was my thought on the end of it.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, entitlement, I'm so keen on that word with this. Like, he's so entitled that he could make a call like that to his lawyer, and his lawyer's like, haha, like, Patrick Bateman.
Good one.
Yeah, like, if only Patrick...
He, like, says something about him being too, like goody-goody, like, kiss ass or something of that nature. Like, he's like, he would never do that. Mm-hmm. Little do they know.
Yeah. So I think, personally, just a summary, I think he killed all those people. I think he framed Paul Owen unintentionally for murder.
Well, I kind of think he had thought about that, though.
Which is why
that and whenever he literally dips his hand in their blood and writes, like, he either says, like, I'm back or... Mm-hmm. Something like that to make it seem like he's back in Manhattan and he's killing.
So, and that he's on the run in London. Because the lawyer says, I had lunch with him. I'm like, no, then he's dead.
Yeah.
Because I think he really is dead.
Paul, yeah.
So,
yeah, he is.
What about you? What's your summary? If you had a summary, could you summarize? Give me a little summary.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I would have to agree with all that. And I didn't even think about the fact that he framed Paul Owen. I thought, like, his lawyer had, like, kind of helped him clean it up. But that makes a lot more sense that they would kind of keep that on the hush-hush. I do think that rampage happened because I just think everything is so extreme and ridiculous at this point. Why wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. but I don't have a whole lot of, like, evidence to back it up or anything.
That's a good thing about theories.
Because, like you said, yeah, at that point in the novel, like, he's, like, so careless and so far gone with his drugs and everything.
There's definitely something about that, like, lawyer and that whole thing of, like, you know, the rampage could have totally happened. I don't know. I don't know. But at the end of it all, I still believe that.
So, okay, let's talk about... So, I know one of the questions that we had typed up that we wanted to both answer was, what did you think about the book's length? If it's too long, what would you cut? If it's too short, what would you add? I don't think it was too long or too short. I thought it was, like, perfect amount.
I agree.
But what do you think he went on to do? Because, because he talks about, like, this whole thing was a confession. This whole thing meant nothing. Like, there is no exit.
Right.
This and that. And I think, and he's so unhappy. Like, he talks about at one point.
He almost wishes he could get caught.
Yeah, and it's almost not fulfilling to him anymore in, like, the weird way that it is. I think, I don't know. I think he probably would continue to go on and, like, continue to do it, maybe possibly get caught. I think he would eventually, like, inevitably kill himself.
Yeah, that would, I don't know.
Or, like, be killed by, like, somebody who maybe, like, he's so careless at
the wrong
some point.
one.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that he was kind of losing his shit at the end, like, was getting so careless, wasn't so put together, like, he's losing grip, and like I said, I'm a fucking true crime nerd. So when I think about that in, like, a real life perspective, like, when serial killers start getting sloppy, they either get killed or they get caught. You know what I mean? Or they kill themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're about to get caught, or there's enough of it.
Yeah.
So if I had to say, I would say almost pretty much the same thing. Is he's gonna keep doing it. I don't think, even if he gets caught, I think he would maybe not get off, because at that point he would have killed so many people. But the people he kills, unfortunately, are the forgotten. They're the people that no one really cares about, that you can't prove.
For the most part.
Right, exactly. Like, besides, like, Bethany, which I also kind of wonder, like, is anyone gonna worry about her?
Yeah, and he has his slip-ups, like... Thank God Lewis had a crush on him and thought he was coming on to him, because he almost killed him broad daylight in a public restroom.
Yeah.
So he has his moments where he's just not thinking, because he is very, like, he's methodical, like, he plans to kind of what he's gonna do.
Well, he is, unfortunately, he is very intelligent, which is the thing with a lot of serial killers, is they're so intelligent that's why, one, they're able to get away with it, and two, while they're able to, I guess getting away with it is just in the same breath, but, like, able to outsmart and, like, think beforehand, like, think 2 steps, 3 steps ahead. And he's very intelligent, unfortunately. But I think if he keeps killing the nameless, he's going to keep getting away with it.
But I think it's interesting, too, because he breaks up with Evelyn. Like, and I feel like Evelyn was kind of like his security blanket. She's, like, kind of like... He's like, oh, I'm dating this woman. In the movie, they're engaged. But in the book, they never officially get engaged.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like he has, like, this, like, staple in his life where it's like, look at me, I'm normal. I have this, like, woman, like...
Everything on the outside is...
Yeah, but he gets to the point where he breaks up with her and he's completely, like, isolated himself.
Well, him and Jean kind of almost fall in love at the very end. Like, he even says, like, Jean is the woman I'm supposed to marry.
Yeah.
Or that I should marry, or
something when they're, like, sitting on the corner, like, the street, like, eating in the afternoon. And he says for a moment, like, he feels like he could, like, feel love for her or something.
Which is weird. Because in the movie, in the film, she sees his, like, awful, explicit drawings, and she just cries, and that's the last time you see her.
Yeah.
But in the book, he almost, like, has, like, a little bit of a thing for her. And in the movie, he doesn't get close to killing her at all. In the film... He gets very close to killing her.
In the film, that scene that happens when she's eating the sorbet or whatever.
Put the spoon back in the carton.
That happens in the book verbatim, but it's another woman.
Right.
And he tells her to leave because he might hurt her. It's I can't remember who it is, but it's somebody who's, like, somewhat associated with his circle, I think. So he doesn't kill her.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, like, stop him from killing Paul Allen and whoever else.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Like, I think he would keep going until he kills himself. Like, I think he's not too smart to get caught, but he's That's the only way I can put it. Is I think he's gonna kill himself too, or he would.
Yeah.
I don't see him getting old because he is so terrified of getting old. Like I almost think that he would.
And his looks are so important.
Right. Like if he I feel like if he got crow's feet, he would just give up and be like, you know what,
nothing's worth living.
I have crow's feet.
I think it's hilarious too that they're so. Like, their looks are so important to them. They're, like, physique. Like, they're all working out all the time. Like, he goes to the gym all the time. I thought that was interesting, too. Like, he's in the gym all the time in the book, but in the movie, he works out at his house.
Yeah.
And he only did that in the book whenever...
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. But then he has he goes to the tanning bed all the time. They do drugs all the time. Like... stuff that's gonna age them so quickly. Like they
preach, Tita, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say they smoke. They don't smoke though. They smoke cigars, but they don't smoke cigarettes. They look down on smoking cigarettes.
And I love that he smokes a cigar after he kills Paul Owen. Too,
yeah,
or Paul Allen in the movie. Because even Evelyn, or no, it wasn't Evelyn. Bethany said something about you don't. Something about him not smoking cigars, and he's like, I have one every so often, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then he has a cigar like when he kills people sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about our favorite quote. Like, if you could narrow it down to one or two, like, give me your favorite quote.
Well, you do yours first, because I have two, and I just want to make sure we don't have the same one.
Okay.
So go ahead and...
I'm going to go ahead and say on page 71.
Oh, I don't know my page number.
Flip to your page 71, please. I have this... when I bring my head up to see if any of this has registered, I'm greeted by an expressionless mask of the doorman's heavy, stupid face. I am a ghost to this man, I'm thinking. I am something unreal, something not quite tangible, yet an obstacle of sorts. He nods, gets back on the phone, and resumes speaking in a dialect totally alien to me. And I'll tell you why this is my favorite quote. Mm-hmm. This is my totally favorite quote, but this is one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
If I had to say my absolute favorite, would probably be the end. And I know it's so cheesy to say, like, this is not an exit, because it's really not. Like, that confession meant nothing to him, like, or nothing to anyone else. But this quote really stuck out to me because he talks about the whole premise of the fucking book is about him being on a whole other superior level to everyone that's not in his inner circle. Mm-hmm. So he's a ghost to this man, he's a ghost to everyone, and everyone in New York City is a ghost to one another. Yeah. If you think about it, like everyone, I can't say I've, never lived in New York City, but it seems that everyone, there's so many things going on, there's so many people there that nobody really pays attention to the people on the street. You have no idea who you're walking next to. You have no idea if you're a doorman, the people coming in. It could be a serial killer.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's kind of the whole premise of the book is he's talking down about this man, he says, in a dialect that is totally alien to me. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not even like, oh, he's just, like, talking on the phone. He's like, oh, like, this foreign person. Like, I'm not even the foreign person. He's the foreign person. Yeah. Like, and I'm just a ghost to this man. And he talks about even in his like, when he's doing a skincare routine in the morning, which, to be honest, that's how I feel sometimes when I'm like, exfoliate, moisturize, serum. Like, I'm like,
mask.
I am Patrick. Actually, I did a face mask the other day. I'm not gonna lie, I like took it off, like kind of like he does. As slow as
I wonder how many times they had to do that before they got the perfect like peel down. Yeah. Because it stays intact the whole way, which I don't know about anyone else.
Maybe it was a prop.
Like, because it was right on his. I don't know.
Or maybe like he like
another. While we're on the subject, another interesting fact, and I think you probably know this already, but during the filming of this movie, every single morning, Christian Bale would follow the morning routine of his character, Patrick Bateman. He would do the same exact things, same exact products. I just thought that was really interesting. He would isolate himself on set to kind of give like an unnerving, like unsettling, like weird vibe that would kind of, I don't know.
Very Jim Carrey of him.
Yeah, very method.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. What's your favorite
So I have two quotes, because I thought you were going to have one of mine. And mine are two of, like, the most famous ones from the movies,
That's
too.
Okay.
So.
I love that tumbling dickweed one, too.
Oh, you're dating a tumbling dickweed. Pumpkin.
What a pumpkin, yeah, that's cool.
All right, so I'll read both of them. They're not, like, super long. I don't know what page they're on.
Yeah.
But they're two, like, of the most, like, I feel like iconic, like, narrations in the movie. The first one is... I had all the characteristics of a human being, flesh, blood, skin, hair, but my depersonalization was so intense, had gone so deep that my normal ability to feel compassion had been eradicated, the victim of a slow, purposeful eraser. I was simply imitating reality, a rough resemblance of a human being with only a dim corner of my mind functioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think that sums up the whole book right there.
Exactly. Is that the one during his skincare routine?
No, this one is.
Okay.
Okay, this is the other quote I had.
But wasn't that one towards the end?
That one is towards the end. I want to say that's in the same narration where he says, like, this confession has meant nothing. Because that, I'm pretty sure that goes into the big paragraph.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like, yep.
You're like, yep. All right, the next one, which I think is during his skincare routine. There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me, only an entity, something, something illusionary. I think I might have got a misspelling.
Siri?
Alexa? Anyway. Only an entity. And though I can hide my cold gaze and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable.
Yeah.
I am simply not there. And again, I think that just sums up the whole tone of the book.
I think that to myself every day when I'm putting my mascara on. Yeah. I am not there.
I am not there. And I think that's interesting, too, because the way he describes Tom Cruise and his inspiration behind it all is he's so friendly,
dead eye.
Personable, but behind his eyes, it's dead.
A Scientologist.
Yep. But he's a great actor.
I'm yawning, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but those are two of my favorite quotes.
All right, so let's what kind of questions did we get on Instagram here? Let's talk about some Instagram questions we're having.
All right, so one of my questions.
Go ahead. Go on.
It's interesting, and I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it asks, did you see American Psycho 2, and did you hate it or did you love it? And I've only ever seen the just like the little image for it to come up on like Netflix or something. I've never clicked on it. It looks bad. You just told me Mila Kunis was in it. I didn't know that.
I think I'm just assuming here. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like woman centric. But I can't say for sure because I haven't seen it. But I did see the Rotten Tomatoes for it, and
I mean, this isn't the kind of movie you may be able to remake it. I don't think it would nearly be as iconic as the first one, obviously.
Yeah, not many things are.
But that's like when they tried to remake The Shining. You just can't do that. Like, it can't be anyone other than...
Wait, they tried to remake The Shining?
Yeah.
Ew.
But when you think of it, you think of Jack Nicholson. You can't...
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So...
Tommy, or what is it? Mr. Torrance.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready for one?
Yeah, do you have any?
Do you think Christian Bale was a decent portrayal of Patrick Bateman? And that kind of goes into our
biggest question.
I'm going to go ahead and say abso-fucking-lutely.
And I don't think, I mean, before this movie, who knows? I don't know how he was seen in the public eye back then. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I can think of other actors that I would like to play, but it would never compare to his role. He's just so... on it. And I think it has to do a lot with his dedication, like you were talking about. Like, he wanted to be Patrick Bateman, which is kind of weird. Like, if you read the book and you're like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I get it, but also...
He's almost like, he reminded me of, like I said, in Jim Carrey in that documentary that we watched. Where, what was it?
Jim and Andy.
Jim and Andy, where he got to the point where he was kind of annoying the people on set because he got so far into Andy, and then they started actually kind of tolerating, and they were like, you know what, we get it. Yeah. Method acting, like you said. But, yeah, and I also think he was probably starving for his first, like, big break.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
And he knew that would get attention.
Exactly. And so we had a burning question for one another. Now, I don't know actors and directors as well as Alex does, because Alex is very keen on movies.
Too much so,
I'm not.
probably.
I'm more of, like, a series kind of gal. I'm more of, like, a, Lifetime movie. No, I'm just kidding. But like a series. Like I always tell Alex and everyone I know, like, I don't watch movies because they make me feel too much.
Yeah, they do.
Even comedies, I'm like, I just can't. I don't. And it might have something to do with my ADD too. Like sitting still for that long.
Yeah.
Or without like talking throughout the whole movie. So we had this burning question of who would you pick to direct the film, one. And then who would you pick to be Patrick Bateman, too?
If there was
was almost like a remake.
Because I think right off the bat, the fact that Mary Harron directed the first one, and the only one in my eyes, because the second one doesn't.
Yeah, fuck the second one, obviously.
But just like I hate using the word allow her, but it was 2000. Like, it wasn't nearly as progressive as it is now. But for her to make that movie, and for it to be a woman, and for the book to be so
intense,
deeply misogynistic, and I just think that was, like, incredible.
And
for her to want to.
Right. Well, I did read somewhere, actually, that people were a little bit... There was a couple of people that were kind of critical of her because she didn't really take, like, a dark... angle of the movie. She wanted it to be more satirical, and she wanted Christian Bale to be more satirical about the whole thing. So I think that was interesting that she took the satirical kind of route instead of taking like a really dark route. And maybe that has something to do with her being a woman. I don't want to assume, that was one of my big questions as soon as I started reading the book was, this is, since this was directed by a woman, like, what, did that change the outcome, which I think it did. I mean, even if a man had directed it, it would have been a different outcome. If Bret Easton Ellis had directed it, it would have been a different outcome. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I think the fact that it was, the women in the movie were so objectified, obviously. I mean, they were in the book. There was no way around it.
Even worse.
But I feel like the male gaze has a lot to do with it, and that's definitely...
Preach.
There's definitely a word
Bitch.
that, like, comes up a lot with,
how much more time do we have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, with like, the new Wonder Woman movie and how it was a woman director, and instead of, like... I think Gal Gadot was still sexualized to an extent, but like, that's her uniform and everything, but not nearly as much as if a male director had gotten that movie. And I think it's the same thing with this. Like, I feel like the women would have been, if possible, even more objectified, and it would have been... I don't know, I can't think of a specific example to give, like, in this moment, but I have, like, read stuff where it's, like, it's a feminist version of the book.
Okay.
Which is lightly used, that word.
Yeah,
because it's not, and again, with the ratings and everything, it's not as graphic, it's not as violent, and... I don't know where I'm going with that thought. It's just a derailed train.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think, and it had something, did you call it a derailed train? That's cute.
Yeah.
I love that. I never heard that before. But I also think it had to do with the time. Like you said, it had to do something with the ratings. Like, and that was something I also wanted to bring up, was that the fact that this movie could be so insanely graphic, as far, like, if somebody made this today, 2018, they would be so insanely graphic as far as, like, the,
showing what was written
as far as the violence goes, right? As far as, the mutilation, the stabbing, you think about, The Walking Dead is the one thing I think about, which is not graphic per se, but it is in a way, like, if you think, like, when I see, like, zombies tearing people open, like, 20 years ago
on TV,
that would not have, it didn't until, currently. So we are so desensitized, this gets on the whole thing, which is, that's a whole, like, opinion thing that I really don't want to get into because I don't want to, like, piss anybody off, but my opinion is we're really desensitized to violence because of everything we go through. But had somebody shown that much of sex in that movie, it would have been like, that's a porno.
Yeah.
But somebody can show somebody ripping someone open, or somebody exploding someone's breast.
And that's funny that you say that, because...
But you can't eat someone's ass on camera. And then it turns into a porno.
Yeah, no, exactly. But that's funny that you say that, because way back when I was taking French, my teacher was from France, and she was talking one day about how it's so crazy that, like, sex is so taboo. Like, you can't show that, but you can literally show somebody being ripped apart.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, it's opposite in Europe.
You can't show someone's boobs on TV.
Yeah, because, like, nudity and stuff, like, in Europe, it's like, yeah, like, that's a human body.
Yeah.
But, and that's way more natural than watching somebody get, like, shot and, like, ripped open. Right. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly speaking truth. All right, so let's do this.
So back to our question.
So if we had to pick one director to direct this film, if it was going to be remade and remade well, who would you pick? We're going to do it on 3. You ready?
Okay, I'm doubting myself now.
No. You ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Quentin Tarantino. Oh my god, it's in my head. Yes!
Quentin Tarantino.
Oh my god, I love you. Okay.
Only because of all of the gore.
How graphic.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think he would hold back on the gore at all.
Or the misogyny.
No,
oh my god, I love that.
Or the racism. Or the homophobia.
The N-word all the time in movies. Wow. Oh my god.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew you were going to say it.
Yes.
Okay, but also directors I would think would be extremely interesting.
I would say I didn't get any more directors after this because I don't really know much about them.
Tim Burton. It wouldn't be nearly as explicit, I don't think, but just like his, more dark. It'd be a lot darker.
He could do a claymation.
Yeah. A stop motion.
Ow. Okay.
These are people I would never ever direct.
Be interesting. Though.
Yeah, but it'd be really interesting to see like that style. Wes Anderson.
Okay.
Just like I feel like it would. I don't know.
So aesthetically pleasing. You're like, murder me, please.
Yeah, and then Martin Scorsese.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
With Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So actor. Who would you choose?
I have a baby list.
Yeah. So pick your number one, and then we'll talk about other guys that we think would be good. But who is your number one if they had to remake this movie, and they had to choose a different actor?
You want to say it at the same time?
No, because it's going to be different.
Okay. I would say Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, and I will only say this, and I don't know film very well, obviously, but like he did so well with the Joker, and he was so convincingly good.
Yeah.
And had you cleaned him up a little bit, and he took on roles so seriously, it seems, even like Brokeback Mountain, like stuff like that. He took them on so seriously, cleaned him up a little bit, give him a little bit of Wall Street look.
Yeah.
And I think he would have done an amazing job.
He's got that charm, yeah.
Exactly. And he's like disturbingly beautiful. Just like Christian Bale is. I mean, at that time especially, like he's so attractive that it's honestly you're like
you can't even look at him.
Yeah, and it's also like he's murdering people. Well, I mean, he's really cute. But he's
really cute. Okay, and I will say that that's how I felt, but once I read the book, it got to a point where I was like, I can't, he's so messed up in the head, like, I can't, you look past all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's yours?
Okay, so it's kind of, I guess, they almost kind of look alike, but it would be modern day Evan Peters.
Oh my god, yes!
And I didn't think about it until I saw this picture of him, and we can post this on,
No, I love that, wait, I'm about to cry.
So there's this picture of him. I don't know what magazine it is because I cropped it.
Wait, I'm like dying.
And I took a screenshot, but he's in like a business suit. And I think obviously because of American Horror Story and stuff, he's got that disturbing like typecast to him. So I feel like that kind of has a hand in it. But he is so charming and good looking and
I feel like he's grown enough now that he wouldn't be like Leonardo DiCaprio. He wouldn't be boyish. Which I also want to bring up. Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe 10 years ago, maybe even less, could totally play that role.
Yeah.
Could totally play that role.
Yeah. I still think he's almost too charming.
That's good, though. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
He has to be fooling people on the outside. And once we were talking about Wolf of Wall Street, like he played that role so well. He does such a good job. At the time, Leonardo DiCaprio, fresh off the boat.
Of Titanic.
Titanic boat. I would say no. I would say no. That would have been a waste of money. Well, no, maybe not a waste of money, but I don't think it would have been iconic as that. But I think Leonardo DiCaprio a couple years ago would have been good. Do you also want to hear my other ones?
Yes, I have some other ones too. We might have similar.
Christoph Waltz.
Oh my god. He's maybe younger. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like had it been in that day. Christoph Waltz.
That's not somebody I would have thought of.
I thought of Inglourious Basterds and how terrifying he was in that, but also how attracted I am.
Yeah.
Water for Elephants with Reese Witherspoon, like he and beautiful Robert Pattinson. Terrifying in the movie. He literally beats an elephant to death, I think, or pretty much to death. Yeah. He pretty much kills the elephant, and like spoiler, but he's so like charming at the same time. It's just, and then the other one I have was I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Cillian Murphy.
What's he
from Peaky Blinders?
Is he the main guy?
Yeah, with those sterling blue eyes.
Yes.
He's terrifying to me, but so attractive. He was on Red Eye.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's that plane where I think is it Jessica Alba? I don't remember, but they get on a red eye plane and he like doesn't murder her on the plane, but he like.
Oh, does she stab him in the neck with a pen?
Yeah.
I've only seen that part. I know who you're talking about, though.
But terrifying.
Yeah, I
terrifyingly beautiful.
On my list, I had Jake Gyllenhaal. But only because of his character in Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of freaky.
If he hadn't done that already, I wouldn't be able to see him as that. But because he has that, like, weird, darker thing going on.
He's so attractive.
Yeah. I know.
Do you have any more?
Okay, kind of, but not really. Like, he couldn't play it, but Sacha Baron Cohen.
That'd be the Tim Burton version.
Yeah.
Like, they would end.
That would be a more serious role for him. Mm-hmm. And he could totally do it.
He's so versatile, though.
He is, yeah.
That kind of reminds me. So, one song I wish they had brought into the movie was, and this is so, like, word for word that it's kind of cheesy, but he talks about the Talking Heads. Had they brought in Psycho Killer and maybe ended with that, or if he would have done that musical number on the top of the World Trade Center, almost in, like, a Breakfast Club type thing with the, woo, arm up, boombox.
That's a good point, yeah. I forgot, because Talking Heads, there's, like, an excerpt at the beginning about Talking Heads.
I love them. And Psycho Killer's so good. I always think about Mindhunter when I think about that.
I haven't seen it all the way.
Dennis. Could you imagine Dennis from It's Always Sunny playing?
He's not charming enough, but he's crazy enough.
No, but he could be charming enough. They would have to, like, slick his hair down, though, which could be an aesthetic. Oh my god, I can't believe we both guessed Quentin Tarantino. That's so good.
I know,
because he would not hold back.
No, not at all. And if people told him it would be X-rated, he'd be like, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't even have to bring it out in theaters. Just fucking release it on the internet.
Yeah.
Like Netflix. Yeah, I would like to see him remake it. I don't think it would be... obviously, nothing would be the original, but it's like, I would love to see him...
I feel like it would be a little more true to the book. And I will say, okay, so, I'll say final question, but we probably will come up with more. What are your thoughts on the movie after reading the book?
I have a new appreciation for the movie as far as, like, following quotes, because not many books, or not many movies do that. Minus maybe Harry Potter kind of follows the books pretty closely, because there is so many and they're allowed to be so long. Granted, I haven't seen all of them, read all the books in depth. No, I've seen all the Harry Potter books, but maybe not, like, so closely that I could analyze them next to the books. But I think about that, like, that immense respect for the book. As far as, and I always say this, and I've said this before, as, like, a sign of the times. Like, had they released something like that in 2000, it would have been, like, dark web shit. Like, I don't think, Quentin Tarantino was doing stuff like that, but even then his stuff was kind of tame, like, around that time. I thought it was good. I thought that... Now that I read about the whole satirical kind of angle to it, I get that now. I get it, and I'm trying to, like, think of it on the spot. I think it was good. I think it was good. And it did what it could with what it had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also kind of think, and I don't want to be like, oh, because she was a woman, but I wonder, like, by her getting kind of trampled on with her putting her foot down about Christian Bale being the lead,
And she was brought on, taken off, brought on again, given and setbacks, kind of, like, and then kind of, like...
And then given a small budget.
Yeah.
And she was only given the budget because they made her agree to... cast all these, supporting actors. Yeah. Right, so I wonder, like, had it been Martin Scorsese, like, had it been, so-and-so,
would they have been able to kind of do what they would with it?
They had a way larger budget.
Yeah. That is, yeah.
I have to wonder, just as a woman...
I mean, even now, it's not completely equal playing grounds. I mean, it's getting way, way, way better, but still, like, and back then, she was probably, like, totally cheated on her budget and everything.
Did you know that at the showing, she was, like, 8 months pregnant?
No.
Yeah. And so she was dealing with that. Actually, maybe not the showing or maybe the filming. I want to say it was the showing. Anyway, but what about you? How do you feel about the...
So I completely agree with everything you said, but after reading the book and knowing everything that happens, I felt like the movie was totally rushed.
Yeah.
Like, everything happened so quickly. And, I mean, obviously it had to because it could only be so long. Like, you can't make a 4-hour movie. But
you could.
But, like, rewatching
the Hobbit
movie,
or whatever.
Yeah. But, and I still love it. But I do...
It was rushed.
I feel like it was a little bit rushed. And I feel like, I don't know, it was almost, like, cheated in ways because it couldn't put certain things in it.
I had that noted down that he killed Paul Allen 30 minutes in. And
but in the book, it was
like halfway through.
Yeah, and it was something that was really building up for a long time. And in the movie, it was just kind of like...
That it was like a quick kill kind of thing. Yep. Yeah. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. Wow. Quentin Tarantino. I love that we both...
I knew you were going to say that. So I knew you were going to say it.
Was that yours from the get-go?
Well, I couldn't figure it out for the longest time, and then today when I was like, oh, I know it, and you were like, yeah, and we made eye contact, I was like, it's definitely the same person.
I love it.
I'm glad we waited, though. I really wanted to tell you.
I know, me too. I'm glad we did. I, smacked my head on the couch. I was so excited.
Is there anything else?
Okay, just side note, what places in the book would you most like to visit?
What places in the book? Oh, I keep calling it Terminal or whatever, that nightclub that they go to, where Tim Price just vanishes through the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems interesting. Dorsia, obviously.
I would say I wouldn't want to go to Dorsia and just eat.
Yeah. And that's another thing I love, and I didn't really pick up on it in the movie until we read the book, is everything that they eat is so intricate. I can't even think of it's a lemon glaze over fish eggs with a teriyaki drizzle, and it goes on. And I remember at one point in the book, they were like, oh, this person went here and they got this. And it was something super basic, still nice.
And you're I had French fries with lemon pepper on them. Out of my freezer, this was sitting there for four months.
But it goes back to that, entitlement and just elitism.
Yeah. Alex and I actually, for her graduation dinner, we went and got pizza with her parents, and they had these kind of elaborate kind of
it was a really nice pizzeria.
Appetizers. Yeah, really nice pizzeria. It really is. It
was really intricate names.
Yeah, I mean, we had Kalamata olives in a little pit dish, especially for them, and we're like, oh, this is so Patrick Bama.
Yeah.
Her parents are looking at us what the fuck. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else.
Oh, and another little detail, kind of an homage to the book. In the book, it talks about Evelyn's neighbor gets killed and decapitated, but they can't find her head.
Yeah.
And he's on the phone with her, and he's in his talking in his own head, and he's blah blah blah, her neighbor's head's in my freezer.
Right.
And in the movie, he briefly just opens his refrigerator and shuts it, and there's a head in there.
A freezer in there. There's a freezer in his freezer.
Yeah. But I just thought that's interesting. It's a detail that they don't go into, but it's there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because it really does feel like the film was a little bit rushed. It's respectable for what it was and where it was.
Just
and
knowing what all
could have been.
Yeah.
That's why you bring Quentin Tarantino in.
Yeah.
Because I feel he's a dick, whatever. But I feel like he's not afraid to, do disgusting shit.
Yeah.
You know?
No, not at all.
And I just think about, Django Unchained and stuff like that. That was some... And even, what is it, Hateful Eight? That shit gets pretty intense at the very end. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
It was fine. It was too long.
It was.
At that point, he kind of... You could tell that he's, in love with his own words.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's great, and I could never make a piece like that, but...
Don't say that. That's not true.
Yeah, whatever. That's a whole different discussion.
But I would have loved to, see his... Because, he brings himself into,
he makes cameos. He could be, Van Patten or something.
Right, exactly. Or...
Paul Allen.
Yeah. He would have probably loved to get murdered.
Yeah.
By Evan Peters.
Really
Evan Peters. Oh.
He would be so good, right?
The daddy.
Slick back hair.
Yeah.
And Emma Roberts could totally play Evelyn. She's super annoying.
For a second, I thought you meant Emma Watson. I was like, all right, don't be rude.
No.
Emma Watson's a beautiful
Emma Roberts is amazing. I don't want to say she's annoying, but she can play those annoying roles.
Yeah, she's a little bit annoying. And also, I think she, actually hit Evan Peters.
Yeah, no, there was a whole thing a while back.
I mean, I don't know the situation, but fuck her.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But, her Scream Queen's role, is, so preppy and,
And even her playing the Supreme in American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Just so mean and entitled.
Yeah.
White. Wow.
I got nothing else.
And that's that.
Yeah.
Wow. We said we were going to end like this. Wow.
Give me a stop.
Oh, you know what I was going to tell you? Oh my god, I totally forgot to crack the joke when you were like, oh, who's the ultimate actor you would pick? I was going to say Owen Wilson, just as a joke. I was like, Owen Wilson. Could you imagine he'd be like, wow,
wow, you got a nice rib.
Wow, where's my ass? All right, well, I guess that's that.
Yeah, and we don't have anything else to say.
Surprisingly, it's only been 4.5 hours. No,
yeah,
it has been a while, so we're gonna have to figure this out. I hope you guys have enjoyed the first episode.
Yeah, we're gonna try to create an outline for next time, just so it's a little more. Our thoughts are a little more structured. And, but that's what it is. We're literally just here to talk about the book and the movie. There's really no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, we finished a bottle of wine. We finished a book.
We finished a movie. I feel good about it. I'm glad I finally got to read it. Because I remember watching it initially and just thinking, like, wow, I bet the book is so interesting.
Yeah. And
I don't think I could have read it back then.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I feel a little bit changed as a person after reading it.
You're different.
Yeah, you look different.
You look different. All right, well, great. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks for tolerating.
If you have any feedback, I mean,
let us know.
Put it somewhere. I don't know how we'd get it.
Put it out into the universe. We'll get it.
All right, so I guess we should announce our next book of the month.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
So it'll be for September.
Yeah. Birthday month.
So our next book is going to be, should we drum roll?
Wow.
It's going to be Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. And I don't know if I pronounced his last name correctly, so you can correct me.
Correct him.
But I've seen the movie. It was amazing. It blew me away.
I haven't seen it yet.
I found out it was a book, and we need to read it, so.
Yeah. I know the very, the least, premise of it. I have really no clue.
Yeah.
About it, so I'm excited to kind of see it, and then watch the movie too, because Alex was really keen on the movie. So
that's gonna be the book of September. So
bitches, yeah. Well, thanks for
read it, watch it, do neither. We'll talk about it here. So
do it for you.
Yeah.
35 megabytes. We've only been recording for 2.5 minutes. This is ridiculous. All right, friends, it's been real.
Thank you for tuning in.
I love you.
This has been the book club for bitches who don't read.
The bitches who don't read, the book club. All right,
yeah, I think that sums it all up.
All right, kisses.
Thank you.
Bye.